Chapter 26, Paternal Training. The design plan was in his hands. James looked it over. It was decent, but the armory still needed work. He grabbed his phone and called the number Phil had given him. "I need an armory set up at home. Better if you guys handle it." "I can pay for everything," James said straight to the point. "No problem. We'll take care of it." "Any design in mind?" the S.H.I.E.L.D. contact asked. "Let your designer handle it. I was just an accountant before all this. We'll talk about weapons later." "Just get it started," James replied. With that handled, he went to sell his Chevrolet Camaro SS. It fetched for only $8,000. Not great, but he had pushed the car hard coming to New York, making it used and a little beat up. Time to upgrade to a better car later. Soon after, he and Carlos boarded a flight. Their destination was East Moravia to meet Carlos's friend, Pekvalski, who currently worked at a monastery. Once they landed, they took a taxi near the monastery and hiked the rest of the way. Pekvalski was already waiting at the entrance. "My friend, you're finally free." "Congratulations," Pekvalski greeted, hugging Carlos. He turned to James and grinned. "Your son looks much better than you." "Yeah, he takes after his mother," Carlos said casually. "Come on. We'll be staying here for a while." Inside, James noticed several looms set up in the hall. "These are knockoffs?" James asked, eyeing them. "Yeah. None of them work though." "The loom of fate can't be replicated," Pekvalski admitted. "Not necessarily," James added. "Someone paid Sloan a lot of money. They tried using a software based on the loom's calculations to predict targets. But the ones calculated weren't the ones who should die." Pekvalski glanced at Carlos, who nodded. "We don't know who was behind it. They stayed hidden. But it's not our concern anymore." "Right. The fraternity is gone." "We're out," James agreed. "I'll deal with the looms later. If you could show us to our rooms, we need to rest." After a good night's sleep, James woke early. These days, he has gotten used to simple morning routines. He cleaned up and went out for a run. His body, strengthened by the fraternity's training plan and Cortana's help, felt light and responsive. He wasn't just a killer anymore, soon he'd be a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. Plus, the Tesseract was on his mind. That was the real prize. Carlos joined him halfway through the run. They jogged together through the tree line. It didn't take long for James to notice the difference between them. He wasn't at his father's level. Not yet. Not even close. Carlos moved like a predator, focused and silent pace. James? Still figuring it out. Against powered enemies, he wouldn't stand a chance with his current stats. That needed to change. After breakfast, Carlos set a training schedule. "Starting today, we go all in on marksmanship. No shortcuts. No gimmicks. Just skill." James gave a nod and double-checked his gear. The Beretta 92F holstered to his left side and the M1911 on his right were both fully loaded and ready. "Pistols first. You already know them well." "Effective range?" "Around 50 meters. Everything inside that range is fair game." Carlos walked him through the pistol logic again. "Environmental effects?" "Practically zero. That's why we use them. Quick, light, and consistent." James understood. His Beretta 92F was the lighter of the two, great for quick fire and suppression, high capacity, low recoil. His M1911, meanwhile, was a powerhouse. A solid hit to a vital area meant one kill. Even a limb shot could end a fight. "Learn how to use both. Not just shoot them, understand them," Carlos said. Instead of firing off rounds, they started with disassembly drills. Over and over, James stripped and rebuilt both guns. Cortana offered breakdown schematics via HUD, but he ignored her help for now. This was about getting it done with his own hands. 3 days passed like that. Breakdown. Rebuild. Dry fire. Repeat. It reminded him of the fraternity's early drills, just more precise. Then came live firing. Carlos had built a simple but brutal training course in the woods. Static targets, moving targets, and obstacle layouts. James ran drills with hundreds of rounds, burning through magazines while pushing himself harder every day. He tracked every shot, adjusted his stance, and corrected his aim using real-time advice from Cortana. Turning bullets? Still not there. But at least he was hitting moving targets consistently now. The next 3 weeks were nothing but lead, sweat, and reflex work. His accuracy climbed fast. It wasn't just good, it was starting to look elite. Not bad, Carlos finally said. You've got the talent. And the work ethic. Next up are sniper rifles, he added. Carlos handed him one of his old custom rifles. It looked more like a prototype than a weapon, crazy long barrel, special rounds, and high maintenance. James held it and immediately shook his head. This thing's great, but too high maintenance. Needs parts, tools, even backup shooters for reloads. S.H.I.E.L.D could build them for you, Carlos pointed out. Yeah. But handing S.H.I.E.L.D custom bullet tech feels like asking to get backstabbed. Carlos didn't argue. Instead, they agreed to log the rifle schematics with Przewalski, just in case James needed them later. Sniper training began with lectures. Carlos explained the difference. Handguns with a shorter range ignore the environment. Sniper rifles don't. Everything affects the shot: wind, humidity, temperature, altitude, and weight. James listened, then smiled. Yeah. I'm cheating this part. Cortana, you're on calculations, he communicated silently. Already started, she replied on his HUD. Factoring in ballistic drop and crosswind. James didn't feel bad. He was never a math guy. Not in his past life, not as an accountant, and definitely not now. Cortana was built for this. This time he'd let the AI take the shot. Chapter 27, Extra Training and Call. Sniping wasn't just about skill. It was about patience, clear and focused patience. You only got one shot. That meant waiting for the right moment and being mentally prepared to pull the trigger the instant it came. Not before and not after. It wasn't enough to spot an opportunity. You had to be ready the moment it arrived. If not, you backed off. No second chances. You couldn't prep a shot too early either. The wind could change, humidity could shift, targets could move. Most snipers relied on instinct and experience. It's not like the Vindicare assassins exist. But James didn't have to. He had Cortana. 2 months passed: pistols, sniper rifles, tactical scenarios, real combat drills. Carlos pushed him hard, but they both knew it was time to move on. S.H.I.E.L.D had called. It was time for James to meet up with Coulson. They packed up quickly. James said goodbye to Przewalski, and Carlos left behind $1 million thank you. Then it was a straight shot to the airport, a short flight, and they were back in New York. Their new place was finished. From the outside it looked modest, but stepping in revealed the real design: sharp, minimal, and clean. Shades of gray, white, and black dominated the place, with a subtle red accents to keep it from feeling like a prison cell. Warm ceiling lighting made the top floor space feel less like a lair and more like an actual home. Let's check everything, James said. He and Carlos went room to room, sweeping every corner. They didn't trust anyone, especially not government agencies. Even if S.H.I.E.L.D said there were no bugs, they'd still double-check. Cortana gave suggestions with a few gadgets she'd selected for electronic sweeps and helped in finding hints of suspicions that are viewed through his eyes. Nothing turned up, but the caution was necessary. Half a day later, the apartment was officially secured. They stood outside the study, disguised as a normal reading room, but actually their armory. A bookshelf slid to the side when they triggered the hidden latch, revealing clean metal racks and compartments. 3 rooms. 4 bathrooms. James still didn't understand the American obsession with extra toilets. Some mansions had more bathrooms than bedrooms. But hey, when in Rome. Not a huge space, James said, stepping inside. But good enough for both of us. What do we put in here? Carlos nodded. My 6 sniper rifles go in, each with its scope setup, even if I probably won't be using them much anymore. James agreed. They're legacy pieces. Definitely worth keeping. I'll also see what S.H.I.E.L.D's got. Their tech might surprise us. We should stock up on flight suits and low-altitude parachutes too, Carlos added, glancing out the window. Living on the top floor has its perks. We can glide out in a pinch. James raised an eyebrow. I haven't been trained in those. You will be. S.H.I.E.L.D should have those modules in their program you could use. Once you're in, many options of training should open. Carlos pulled one of the suits out of storage. The folded material looked like something between a tactical jumpsuit and a bat costume. James could already picture himself gliding off the rooftop in one. Paired with a parachute, it might actually work. Not a bad exit strategy. All right. Let's clean up and get some food. Tomorrow we can go car shopping. I'll call Coulson too, see what's going on. James began unpacking. His room was pretty simple. with his closet empty. He hung up his suits, folded a few spare shirts and left the rest. He didn't bring anything from his old rental, no reason to. That life was done. He picked up the phone and dialed. "Phil, we're back." "What's up?" "Good timing," Coulson said. "Keep your phone on. We might have an operation coming soon." James's mind jumped immediately to Stark Industries. Tony was about to go to war with his dad's old business partner and close friend, Obadiah Stane. "What's the operation about?" James asked. He wasn't about to walk into a fight without knowing the odds. Still unclear. But something's off. The atmosphere around Stark's company isn't normal. We're working with him directly, but we need preparation time. James saw an opportunity. "I want to meet up tomorrow. I'll need to get some equipment." "No problem. Call me when you're ready." The call ended. James sat back thinking. Dealing with Iron Man? That wasn't like fighting some random target in a warehouse. That was a moving tank in a metal suit. If Stane got to the armor, it'd be over. The only solution? Hit him before he suits up. Which meant a sniper rifle. He didn't like the idea of waiting for someone to remove their helmet before pulling the trigger, but it was the only shot he'd get. He wasn't officially an assassin anymore. Assassination wasn't Plan A. It wasn't even Plan B. But survival made the rules blurry. Movies moved fast. Real life didn't. He and Carlos grabbed dinner that night, walked back to the apartment and collapsed. The new place was solid, quiet, clean, and without the smell of someone else's history. The next morning, James made a call to his lawyer. "Philip, what's the update on the properties?" "Good news, Mr. James. 2 apartments sold. The one near Stark Tower? Gone for $38 million. Market's hot right now." James whistled. "Nice. That's a record. What about taxes?" Philip hesitated. "Want us to minimize them?" James smirked. "Nah, just pay them. I've got plans." Truth was, the real estate tax was split between buyer and seller, and he wasn't hurting for cash. Avoiding taxes was more effort than it was worth right now, and to think about not paying taxes at all? Not even the Joker would mess around with the IRS. "And the land?" he asked. "Public auctions scheduled for next month. The New York auction house is handling it. Big names are interested. Should go for a high price." "Perfect. Transfer everything to my main account. Subtract your cut and the taxes." James and Carlos still had money. Sloan had stocked up on several company stocks. Some assassins never even touched their earnings. Even after giving Pekvalsky $1 million, they still had hundreds of millions on hand. And James was ready to start using it. After breakfast, they went car shopping. "What are you thinking?" James asked. Carlos thought for a second. "Maybe a pickup." James blinked. "A pickup? Seriously?" "Yeah. Why not? Something simple. Reliable." "Carlos, you're not 80. You're in your 40s. That's prime time. If you've got something in mind, a hobby, interests, maybe a midlife crisis, go for it." Carlos chuckled. "Maybe I will." Chapter 28, Armory Stock. "I think I might take up fishing," Carlos said casually, leaning back as they waited for the taxi. "Daytime fishing. It suits me. I've done it a few times before but never had the time." James nodded. "Makes sense. You've spent most of your life dodging bullets. Some peace and quiet sounds good." Carlos gave a small laugh. "It's strange. I never imagined I'd be free enough to fish with my son." "Why not?" James smiled. "We could even get a small yacht. Go out to sea now and then when I'm not working." Carlos lit up. "Yeah, that'd be nice." They arrived at a large auto dealership, one of those warehouse-sized places where every major brand was on display. Sedans, SUVs, trucks, muscle cars, all neatly lined under showroom lights. The father-son duo strolled through the lot, slowly scanning. "Still going with the pickup idea?" James asked quietly. "Pickup trucks are practical," Carlos shrugged. "You can throw gear in the back, fishing equipment, maybe even camping stuff." James smiled. "Fair enough. Not everyone's into speed. Some people want utility." They stopped in front of a black Ford F-150 gleaming under the lights. It looked powerful, with a big frame, elevated stance, and muscular lines. "This one's not bad. Definitely better than Chevrolet's current models," James said. A young salesman, noticing their interest, walked over. Good eye, sir. This is the new Foose edition, part of Ford's 11th generation pickups. Sporty and durable. Let's take a closer look, James said. The salesman led them around the vehicle, rattling off details. Carlos didn't need convincing. He was sold the moment he saw the reinforced bed and interior space. I'll take it, Carlos said, straightforward as always. The total? Around 40 grand, reasonable for something solid and new. James, on the other hand, had different tastes. He wasn't buying a truck. He was young, about to join S.H.I.E.L.D, and would have access to government vehicles anyway. What he wanted now was for himself, something fast, something sleek. Something that would naturally make him pumped with adrenaline. He found what he was looking for in the import section, an Audi R8 V10 Spider, the same model Tony Stark drove in the films. It wasn't overly expensive, not compared to what he had in the bank. Just over a couple $100 grand with taxes. But it looked good and it felt right. Besides, if Stark drove it, why can't he? They bought both cars before heading back. James split off midway and met up with Phil Coulson at a nearby coffee shop. Phil eyed the car key James dropped on the table. New ride? Picked it up this morning. Can't be driving a clunker around New York, James replied, smirking. So, mission briefing? Phil leaned in. You've heard about Tony Stark? James gave him a flat look. You've been watching me, haven't you? You know I bought a ton of Stark Industries stocks. We didn't monitor your investments, Phil said, slightly embarrassed. Good that you're keeping up. After Stark got kidnapped, he managed to escape on his own. We don't know the full story, but something's off. And S.H.I.E.L.D is stepping in? Howard Stark was one of our founders. We've got ties. Plus, Tony's not just a billionaire, he's a genius on par with his father. If he survived that, he probably invented something new. That's what we're worried about. And Obadiah Stane? His behavior is getting suspicious. Let me guess, he's the mole? We're not sure yet, Phil admitted. But he was overseas just before Stark's kidnapping. Last known location was the same region Tony was taken. We need someone on standby. So that's where you come in. James thought for a moment. I'll need gear. What kind? I need 2 sniper rifles, 1 high power with long range and 1 lightweight. 4 assault rifles with lots of ammo and a high fire rate. I have my 2 pistols, a Beretta 92F and AM 1911, my standard loadout. And toss in some grenades, smoke bombs and flashbangs. The usual. Phil raised an eyebrow. You planning to start a war? James smirked. You've seen my armory. I'm just stocking up while it's free. You want me to be ready, right? I still don't have an exact mission plan. If I'm supporting your team, I'd rather be over-prepared. Fair enough. Though don't you and your father already have your own equipment? Some, yeah. But it's specialized. My pistols are easy to register. My dad's sniper rifles? Those are assassin grade. Designed for one-shot kills before vanishing. I'm not going to be using those. I'm an agent now, not an assassin. Phil nodded, impressed. You've shifted your mindset. That's good. I'll have someone deliver your loadout. We'll file the paperwork and you'll officially be on S.H.I.E.L.D's roster. He paused. But your new car, kinda small for the mission, don't you think? James chuckled. Who said I'm using my car for missions? I'll use yours, obviously. S.H.I.E.L.D's fleet is decked out with tech, right? Phil grinned. Right. Just checking. James leaned back, satisfied. S.H.I.E.L.D. indeed has some serious gear of many varieties, armored SUVs, digital camouflage, even flying transports. He's not expecting to get Fury's personal ride, but if he played the long game, maybe he could work his way up to it. The Tesseract was the goal. The car, the missions, the weapons? They were just bonuses. Chapter 29. In turn? James parted ways with Phil and drove his new sports car back home. The apartment sat on Central Park South, perched at 1,396 feet, over 425 meters high. 2 penthouses occupied the top floor, one now belonged to James, the other to Carlos. Both had been bought outright. Pricey for 2007, sure, but in 10 years? The value would skyrocket. And James knew it. 4 underground parking spots came with the property. They were only using 2. After parking the car, he took the elevator straight up. Carlos was already inside, inspecting the second unit. What do you think? Carlos asked as James walked in. Not bad, James said, giving the space a quick glance. You should find a new woman. 2 penthouses for only 2 people. Feels like a waste having all this place for ourselves. Carlos gave a flustered grunt. This is America. James grinned. I used your name for the penthouses, we each get to have one. Sloane's money paid for everything anyway, and we've still got more left over. You thinking of doing something now that you're retired? Carlos nodded. Yeah. I'm in my 40s. Might as well do something with the rest of my life that doesn't involve knives and sniper scopes. Well, you've got time to think it over. Take a look around New York, see what clicks. Meanwhile, it's nice not having to rent anymore. Carlos agreed. I'll start walking around the city tomorrow. So why'd you sell that old Manhattan place? Too close to Stark Tower, James said seriously. Tony's brilliant, but he's also a magnet for explosions, aliens, and lawsuits. It's just asking for trouble. Carlos raised an eyebrow about those weird comments but chose to ignore it. Then why buy stock in Stark Industries? Carlos asked, amused. Because he's a genius. And geniuses make money before they get their heads straight. Right now is the perfect time to invest. Once he stabilizes the company, the stock will be too expensive to touch. We've still got enough cash to grab 1 million shares if we want. You should figure out what you want to do. Doesn't even need to make money. Just has to be something you enjoy. Just then, James's phone buzzed. Hello? That was fast. All right, I'll head down. Just pull into the underground garage. I know you can get through security. Yep. See you there. He hung up and turned to Carlos. Our weapons are here. Let's go take a look. They took the elevator down to level 2 of the parking garage. 2 black Chevy Suburbans were parked, headlights off. A S.H.I.E.L.D. operative stepped out and handed James a folder. This is your temporary ID. You'll need to report to the S.H.I.E.L.D. branch in Manhattan soon. This car's yours for now. Everything you requested is inside, along with some instructions. Any tech you don't understand you'll get trained on later. Thanks. James gave a polite nod, then opened the Chevy's rear doors. Inside were crates, lots of them. The first thing he pulled out was a Barrett M82A1 sniper rifle, secured in a green hard case. The effective range, 1,850 meters. Max range, 6,800. But that number didn't mean much unless the shooter could handle it. The best snipers could make accurate shots up to 2,200 meters. But James had Cortana, and she could do the math most snipers couldn't in an ever-changing variables. Carlos leaned over. It's powerful, but the recoil's a beast. I trust you'll manage though. You're stronger than I was at your age. James popped the case on the second rifle, a lightweight AWP Arctic Warfare Police sniper rifle which is modeled after the real sniper rifle, AWM, Accuracy International Arctic Warfare Police sniper rifle, compact with a 600-meter effective range. It came with a full accessory pack, rifle, optic scope, bipod, magazines, soft bullet bag, night scope, cheek rest and more. Everything neatly packed for grab-and-go missions. Then came the carbines. James had asked for assault rifles, but S.H.I.E.L.D. had swapped in 4 HK416A5 carbines instead, short barrel, highly adaptable, perfect for urban environments. Smart choice, James muttered, checking the build. I didn't even think of that. Makes more sense in a city. The weapons were all kit with attachments, scopes, vertical grips, suppressors, slings, and cleaning kits. Carlos nodded approvingly. They like you. This is a solid loadout. Not an expensive gear but complete. You'll need to get them registered though. Yeah, that's the trade-off, James said. Registration keeps it legal but opens the door for scrutiny. He moved on to the support gear, grenades, flashbangs, smoke bombs, gas masks, tactical vests, gloves, boots, black training uniforms, the works. Not bad, James said. They even covered the stuff I didn't think to ask for. He drove the Chevy up to the elevator, loaded everything in, then parked it properly. Thankfully, the elevator was empty. Anyone else would have passed out seeing it packed with firearms. Once upstairs, James and Carlos unloaded everything into the armory and began organizing it on the racks. Crates were stacked, rifles lined up, vests hung on hooks. These are gonna need maintenance, James said, eyeing the haul. Carlos rolled up his sleeves. Don't worry. I'll handle that. Even if I'm retired, it's good to keep my hands busy. James picked up his new ID badge. It had the S.H.I.E.L.D. logo on it, along with his name. Intern agent? He groaned. They seriously labeled me as an intern? Carlos shrugged. Makes sense. You haven't gone through full training yet. James glanced at a separate box of electronics, a secure phone, radio, and encrypted laptop. Probably S.H.I.E.L.D. issue. The rest? He couldn't even name. Weird devices with no obvious function. Cortana popped up a text box in his HUD. Unknown tech. No match found in the database. Possibly classified. Recommend direct instruction. James sighed. Yeah, figures. We're entering the deep end now.
Whoa, whoa, whoa! Hold up. Stop for a sec. Look, if you've already made it this far into the video and you're still here, come on, subscribe, bro. Help a brother out, man. It's one tiny click for you, but it's a massive, and I mean massive, heck yeah for me. Plus, it keeps the algorithm from thinking I'm boring, and we both know that's a total lie. All right. I'm done. I'll get out of the way now so you can get back to the good stuff. Stick around and finish listening. It's worth it. Peace.
Chapter 30, Shop for Dad. James and Carlos finished sorting out the armory. James carried out the radio, the encrypted phone, and the S.H.I.E.L.D.-issued laptop. The moment he powered on the encrypted phone, it rang. Looks like you got the equipment, Phil's voice came through. You're on 24-hour standby now. Keep the essentials in the car, we might need you for rapid support. There won't be time to load up then. That would have been nice to know before I hauled everything inside, James replied dry. Anything else? The radio's an ear-worn set. Main unit clips to your belt, headset on the band, mic in the cuff, you've seen it in the movies. Channels 06. Keep it on you at all times. And remember, the laptop's secured, don't go online with anything else. Everything's encrypted, but still, keep your usage clean. Got it. This phone's staying on, James said and ended the call. He had zero intention of going back downstairs again that night after hauling them all up to their penthouse. Let's take the rest of the day off, he told Carlos. We'll go out tomorrow. Figure out what you want to do now that you're retired. The night passed quietly. No sirens, no gunfire, no late-night alarms. It was almost unsettling. The next morning, Carlos made breakfast, eggs, toasted bread, warm milk. It was weird seeing a legendary assassin frying eggs in slippers, but James rolled with it. Kinda like Itachi in an apron cooking breakfast. After they ate, they got back to work. They loaded up the Chevy Suburban with a Barrett sniper rifle, the AWP, one 416 Hong Kong dollars carbine, and plenty of ammo. The radio went in too, clipped to the console. They hit the road, driving through Manhattan, watching the city blur past. Crowds, honking horns, flashing lights, and way too many taxis. City's fast-paced, yet traffic is so slow, Carlos said from the passenger seat. Yeah. It's how all international hubs are. Cutthroat, always moving. Good place to stay unnoticed and get things done. James smiled. He had a mission. He didn't need a salary. But being close to the Tesseract? That made everything worth it. Carlos glanced out the window. I'm not looking to live fast anymore. I'm thinking maybe a flower shop. James nearly swerved. The car jolted once as he righted it. A cab next to him honked. Hey. Learn how to drive, you mook, the driver shouted out. James gave him the finger and focused back on Carlos. Wait. A flower shop. Yeah. Surprised? Little bit. You're a retired assassin. I figured you would say a security firm, but not a bouquet stand. I know my flowers, Carlos said in a calm tone. Your mom loved them. Taught me a lot about it. James went quiet. He hadn't thought about her much since he reunited with Carlos. He probably should have visited her grave even though he's not the original Wesley anymore. After a moment he said, All right. Let's find a spot. I was thinking somewhere close to the penthouse, Carlos added. We walk around a lot, but I haven't seen a flower shop nearby. It should work. James nodded. Makes sense. Let's take a look around. They circled around south of Central Park. Prime real estate, expensive but a solid investment. After a bit of driving, they spotted a small estate agency less than a block from home. James parked and they walked in. Welcome. How may I be of service to you today, gentlemen? The agent said as they entered. We're looking to open a shop nearby, James said. Size doesn't matter much. As long as it's for sale, we'll consider it. The agent perked up. You're in luck. A client recently listed a ground-level unit not far from here. About 100 square meters. Not ideal for large businesses, but more than enough for small shops. Would you like to take a look? Lead the way, James said. The manager drove ahead in a company car, while James and Carlos followed behind. A few minutes later, they pulled up outside an office building just 300 meters from their apartment. The first floor had a row of street-facing storefronts. One side had a movie theater, and the unit in question used to be a fast food joint, compact, but in a high-traffic area. This one here, the agent said. It has excellent foot traffic. Small? Yes, but well-positioned for people to find. James scanned the spot. Looks nice with good potential. Why's it for sale? Personal reasons. The owner's European, made his money and is now heading back to retirement. James smirked. Guy figured it out early. How much? He asked. $8 million if you're paying cash. 9.5 with financing. James didn't hesitate to say. Bring a lawyer. We're buying it. No bargaining. The agent looked like he won the lottery. He whipped out his phone to call the seller while James called Philip, the one he met during his property viewings, to handle the paperwork. The deal was sealed in a matter of hours. The shop officially became Carlos's property by sunset. James set up a bank account for his father and transferred $10 million into it, some independence in case Carlos ever remarried or wanted a new life. James still had funds left over. He made a mental note to invest more in stocks and start boat shopping soon. Something basic. Something he and Carlos could use to fish on the weekends. Philip, ever efficient, got the legal side sorted while Carlos and James started planning the shop's renovation. Should we use the same guys from last time? James asked. Yeah. Their work on the apartment was top-notched. We'll have them tear out the fast food layout. Replace the front with floor-to-ceiling glass and install a motorized shutter door. Inside we keep it clean. Flower racks and some storage in the back. No need for anything fancy. Get rid of the old exhaust systems too, Carlos added. We'll need coolers in the back for flower storage. Carlos dove headfirst into planning. For the first time in years, he looked genuinely excited. James, meanwhile, had S.H.I.E.L.D. duties to prepare for. Otherwise, he would have been browsing boat dealerships or mapping out fishing trips already. But for now, he was just glad his dad had something to look forward to. Chapter 31, First Agent Mission. Hello, this is Phil. Get to the Stark Industrial Energy Center immediately. GPS location has been sent to your phone. Bring all your equipment. James, who had been waiting on standby for days, finally got the call. He opened the armory, changed into a black training suit and tactical boots, then grabbed his gear before heading for the elevator. Downstairs, he loaded up the Chevy and drove out. As he drove, he slipped in his earpiece, opened the message on his phone, and downloaded the GPS file. A map popped up instantly with a red pin marking the location. Glad we finally have smartphones these days, James muttered, then focused on driving. By the time he arrived at Stark Industrial Energy Center, the sky was darkening. No sign of Phil at the entrance yet. He parked, popped the trunk, strapped on a tactical vest, and holstered his gear. He brought his Beretta, his carbine, and loaded up. They'd be useful for close-range threats, but if Iron Man was involved, he needed range. Real range. He looked across the street. The office building nearby had potential. High enough to see the scene, close enough to control the shot. His AWP sniper rifle would work well here, but it was also too exposed. He scanned the surroundings using a military-grade range-finding binocular. The kind that could calculate distance, elevation, and angle. Then he spotted it, a commercial mid-rise about 2,500 meters out. Not tall, maybe 12 stories, but clean line of sight. And best of all? Hidden. No chance of being spotted unless someone was actively looking for him. Far but manageable, James muttered. And if I miss, hey, I'm just an intern agent. He packed up the gear and moved to the rear of the building to wait. No reason to kick the door in unless things got ugly. Soon, a silver Audi sedan pulled up in front of his car. James stepped out instinctively, just as Pepper Potts climbed out, only to stop short in alarm. Before she could panic, Phil Coulson got out from the passenger side. Don't worry. This is our bureau's ace agent, Phil said calmly. He's here as backup. James raised an eyebrow. Ace? Really? I'm an intern, actually, he muttered under his breath. ID says so. Big letters. Agent Wesley, find a spot to provide overwatch, Phil ordered, brushing past the awkwardness. I already have one, and please call me James. Wesley's long gone, James replied. 2,500 meters out. Excellent view of the area. If things go sideways, I can provide long-range support. But if you need to evacuate, don't wait, just go. 2,500 meters? Pepper blurted. How is that support? Shouldn't he be with us? James shrugged. Ace agent, remember? He said flatly, casting a glance at Phil. Distance means nothing. Let's move, Phil said, sidestepping the debate. We'll update you once inside. James got back in the Chevy and drove to his vantage point. The commercial building's security was light. He pulled into a side lot, got out, grabbed his rifle case, and walked inside without worry. The security guards froze at the sight of a man in tactical gear carrying a weapon case. Strategic Homeland Intervention, Enforcement and Logistics Division, James said, flashing his S.H.I.E.L.D. ID. The eagle badge made them stand a little straighter. I'm requisitioning your rooftop. Why, yes, sir, one stammered, stepping aside. As James stepped into the elevator, another guard leaned over to his partner. Should we call the cops? Are you crazy? He said the government. Just stay out of it. Cameras caught it, we're covered. Up on the rooftop, James opened his gear case and began assembling the Barrett M82A1 anti-material rifle. He loaded alternating armor-piercing and standard rounds into the magazine, then clipped the bipod to the rooftop ledge. A long-range optical scope followed, purely analog, with no digital features. I don't know what Stark's suit can pick up, but I'm not broadcasting anything extra, James muttered. He brought the scope to his eye and connected with Cortana. Reading temperature, humidity, wind resistance. Calculating correction factors. Adjust as needed. Let me know if variables shift, James replied, turning the elevation and windage dials according to Cortana's inputs. No night vision, the energy center was well lit enough. He wanted pure visibility with no filters. Minutes passed in silence. Why hasn't it started yet? James mumbled. They've been in there forever. Just then, Pepper Potts exited the building. She looked tense, pacing, talking into her phone. James tapped his earpiece. Phil, you still there? A dry cough answered. Yeah. Just not loving what I'm seeing. Big guy's about to exit. Can that rifle of yours punch through Iron Man's armor? Which one? James asked, scanning the scope. Because there's a very big one coming up behind Pepper right now. Out from beneath the energy center's ground came a hulking silver Iron Man suit, Obadiah Stane's Ironmonger. But James didn't pull the trigger. Not yet. A blur streaked across his scope, Tony Stark, in the red and gold armor, flying straight into the fray. Oh. Okay. The small guy's here. Just body-check the big guy like a football tackle. They're going at it in the driveway now. Oh, yep, a car just flew. Agent James, Phil interrupted. I don't need a play-by-play. Focus on your target. Shoot if you get the chance. I need to check on Ms. Potts. James squinted. You might want to evacuate the whole site. That arc reactor is basically a giant electromagnet with a bad attitude. 2 Iron Men brawling around it is a recipe for turning this place into a crater. Noted. Evacuating now. Phil's comm cut out. James stayed behind the scope, calm and ready. But deep down he doubted even an armor-piercing round could do much unless the helmet came off. Out of the corner of his view, he saw Pepper waving frantically in his direction. Then she pointed toward the 2 clashing Iron Men. Message was clear. Take the shot. James didn't budge. Sorry, lady, he muttered. Still an intern. Chapter 32, didn't even hear the shot. Oh, that's a brutal fight, James muttered, watching through his scope. I don't even know if they feel pain in those suits. Probably not, otherwise they'd both be dead by now. It was more entertaining than a movie, a real-life mech battle, and James had front-row seats. On the streets below, traffic chaos had erupted. Rear-end collisions, honking, and pile-ups. Civilians scrambling. James tracked it all, entertained, until Iron Man started climbing into the sky. He grabbed his binoculars to keep eyes on him, but soon Stark flew too high for the lenses to track. A minute passed. Then the two armored figures began plummeting back to Earth. The ironmonger, Obadiah's oversized suit, descended first, slowing just before impact by engaging his thrusters. Tony wasn't so lucky. His suit sputtered halfway down, probably out of energy. He landed hard, rolling onto the roof of the Stark Energy Center. James flexed his shoulders and refocused through his sniper scope. His chance was coming. Down below, Tony Stark was clearly low on power and desperate to defeat Obadiah. "Pepper, I need you to overload the arc reactor," Stark's voice came through the comms. "Blow the roof." Pepper panicked. "What are you going to do?" "Hit every switch. I'll tell you when to flip it. Go now." Pepper ran back inside, still on the call, only to be intercepted by Phil Coulson, dragging 2 wounded S.H.I.E.L.D. agents out. He had gone in with 5. 3 were already dead. "What's going on?" Phil asked. "Tony wants me to overload the reactor. I need to. Let me talk to him." Phil took the phone. "Mr. Stark," he said. "You don't need to blow up the reactor. Just remove his helmet. We'll take care of the rest." "Who the hell are you?" Stark's voice snapped. "Strategic Homeland Intervention, Enforcement and Logistics Division. We met at the gala." "Right. Wait, you mean someone's got a sniper trained on me right now?" "Not you," Phil clarified. Tony paused. "Okay. I'll try." Using the broken cover around him, Stark moved. He ducked behind wreckage, flanked wide, and jumped onto Obadiah's back. From James's scope, he watched Stark rip the helmet wiring loose before getting thrown off. The ironmonger helmet deactivated, forcing Obadiah to open the hatch and expose his face and upper chest. Projected muzzle velocity, 853 meters per second. Distance to target, 2,545 meters. Time to impact, 3.5 seconds. Cortana's HUD text appeared in James's eye. "Phil, I need Stark to hold him still for 4 seconds, James said, already adjusting his scope. Phil didn't hesitate. "Tony, stall him. 4 seconds. "What? You couldn't get the sniper closer?" Stark barked, annoyed. Then, sighing, he removed his helmet and started talking. "Hey, Obadiah. You really went all in on that suit, huh? Doesn't look like something you designed." "Does it even matter?" "It is still far superior than what you have now," Obadiah growled. With the hatch open, the upper body armor now exposed him from head to chest. Target acquired. James held his breath. The scope was steady. Adrenaline flowing. Everything else faded. Bang! The Barrett let out a massive explosive sound. 1 second. James whispered. On the ground, Stark kept talking. "You know it's all crap, right? The design's clunky and you stole my arc reactor just to power it. You were never going to win." 2 seconds. The bullet whirled through the air with barely a resistance. Obadiah lifted his leg to move closer to him. "I give up," Stark shouted. Obadiah froze from his sudden shift of demeanor. Impact. The bullet punched a fist-sized hole through Obadiah's chest. He stared down in shock, lips parted, trying to say a final word. The armor tried to keep him upright, but momentum took over. He tipped forward and collapsed with a crash. Tony exhaled, the battle was over. James began packing his rifle. He descended the building, told the security guards, "Forget you saw anything. Surveillance is being handled. Don't save any footage. Or you'll get in trouble." Not a threat. Just the truth. He tossed the gear in the trunk and got back on the road, heading toward the energy center. "Cortana, if the reactor doesn't blow up, will Stark's stocks still drop?" "Possibly. Death of a founder and Iron Man's debut will shake the market. Unclear on how much. Then when we get back, let's watch the numbers. If there's a dip, I'm buying 1 million more shares before Stark's press conference. That'll bring me up to 5 million total." He parked close before calling Phil. "I need you to get someone to wipe surveillance from that building. So what's your status?" "We're good. Just trying to figure out how to get Stark off the roof." "I got it." James climbed to the top and found Tony Stark lying on his back, chest plate flickering. The arc reactor embedded in his chest was dim, near dead. James walked over to the ironmonger armor, pulled the backup power core from the wreckage and approached Tony. "Hey, wanna plug this in yourself or should I help you?" He tapped the chest plate. Tony groaned and opened the armor manually. I'm not used to other guys undressing me. But you the one who fired that shot? Yeah, James replied, handing over the core. Thanks for the 4 seconds. Tony inserted it and the arc reactor surged, bringing him back to life, glowing bright. His suit was restabilized. 4 seconds, Barrett. 853 meters per second. So you were 2,500 meters out? Tony shook his head. You couldn't pick a closer rooftop? We didn't have clear intel. If I got too close and you went hostile, I'd be dead. When you showed up, I figured armor-piercing rounds wouldn't cut through your suit. Smart. And damn, that was a clean shot. Good thing you're not an enemy. Chapter 33, Meeting the One-Eyed Pirate. James declined Stark's offer to fly him down and climbed down the building himself. A moment later, Tony touched down beside Pepper, who was waiting for him outside the energy center, who immediately ran over and hugged him. Phil Coulson was already on the phone, coordinating cleanup and backup. Pepper looked over at James. Tony, this is the guy who took the shot. He saved your life. Oh, this is the sniper? Tony turned to James, pretending ignorant with a raised brow, then offered a thumbs up. No wonder you nailed that shot from 2,500 meters out. Definitely ace material, he says in a joking tone, clearly setting the mood to lighten up. James gave a small shrug. In turn, technically. Tony grinned. Right, in turn with anti-material rifles. I had a plan, you know. Overload the arc reactor, blow the roof, boom, problem solved. Sure, James said. Except now the roof's still intact and your stocks didn't tank. That's a win in my book. Speaking of which, Pepper turned toward Stark, clearly trying to rein him in. Tony, maybe tomorrow you can announce that Stark Industries is exiting the weapons business, for real this time. Help the public calm down. James jumped in. Exactly. A formal statement at a press conference. It'll restore confidence and stabilize the company. Tony nodded. Already planning on it. No more baby boom for military contracts, we're officially retiring from that mess. James blinked. That was a weird metaphor. Oh, Mr. James, please, Pepper groaned. The stock's finally starting to recover. Let's not crash it again. Relax. It'll bounce back. Besides, Tony turned to James. You're a shareholder? Yep. 4 million shares. Was about to buy another million, but the price ticked up. Didn't seem worth it. All I need is a short dip tomorrow and I'll snag them at the price I want. Tony chuckled. Are all agents dipping into stock investments now? Or are you just betting heavy on me? Just confident. With your brain running the show, Stark Industries has nowhere to go but up. Tony turned to Pepper. See? Even a stranger believes in me. You hear that, MS Potts? Pepper gave him a look. You're both insane. Tony smirked. James, 2 minutes. You've got 2 minutes tomorrow to grab your stocks at bargain rates. James smiled faintly. Appreciated. With the chaos winding down, James returned to his car and left unnoticed. His part was done. Back at the penthouse, Carlos was stirring something in a skillet. You're back? How'd it go? He asked as James walked in with his gear. Successful. Stark's alive. Big tin guy's down. And if all goes to plan, we'll pick up another 1 million shares tomorrow morning. Carlos gave a wide grin. We're drinking tonight then? The next morning, James was already at the dining table before breakfast, scrolling through stock tickers on his laptop. He hadn't even washed up yet before immediately logging into his computer. Carlos handed over a glass of milk. How's it looking? James sipped. The dip's here. Panic selling from small investors. Stark's press conference is going to drop it further. No more weapons production, plus all the chaos last night. It's a textbook show. Carlos leaned back. You've only got $60 million left. Want me to throw in 10? No need. I'm just looking to buy 1 million more shares. That'll leave us plenty of cash for the boat and backup funds. They watched the price tick down slowly. At 10 a.m. sharp, the Stark Industries press conference began. Colonel Rhodes opened the remarks. James leaned in, fingers ready at the keyboard. Tony stepped up to the podium. First off, I'm officially back at the helm of Stark Industries. Second, and more importantly, we're done making weapons. That's not who we are anymore. James glanced at his watch. 1 minute and go. Tony paused, clearly buying time. Reporters stirred, cameras clicked. James clicked his mouse. 1 million shares purchased at $35.50. Balance left, $24.5 million. A moment later, Tony spoke again. All right, now let's begin. James smiled to himself. Deal complete. Stark had bought him the window. Confidence earned. His phone rang. Phil? The director wants to see you. I've sent the address to your phone. This isn't a mission, right? No. Just a meet-up. James headed to his room, changed into a dark suit, no tie, and holstered his Beretta 92 F&M 1911 beneath his jacket along with the long and short dagger. I'm meeting the director, he told Carlos as he passed by. How's the flower shop looking? Still in teardown. A few weeks before it's ready. Carlos grabbed his coat. I'll go check on it today. Let's head down together. James took his Audi R8 and followed the GPS location given to him. The destination wasn't in the city. Eventually, it led him to a military airfield just outside the New York metro zone. A man in a long coat with one visible eye came out to greet him. Wesley Gibson, a pleasure to meet you. Name's Nick Fury. Director of S.H.I.E.L.D. You can leave your car here. We're heading to California. Nice meeting you, but I prefer to be called Bond. James Bond. Nick gave him a raised eyebrow, catching on to his gimmick. Like that British agent? James snickered. I'm kidding, but seriously though, call me James. He proceeded to hand off the keys without question, straightened his jacket, and boarded a sleek private jet. Inside it was S.H.I.E.L.D. stylish, a twin-engine jet, clean leather seats, and minimal cabin staff. Fury sat across from him with arms crossed. What's in California? James asked. Fury got straight to it. Tony Stark just told the world he's Iron Man. James blinked. Yeah, I caught that. Stock's already rebounding, Fury added. Looks like you made a nice profit. Wasn't bad, James replied, sipping the in-flight drinks. But Stark's looking cocky again. Thought that might bother you. It does. And his health is deteriorating. But we're heading there to discuss something bigger. James raised an eyebrow. This isn't just a check-in, is it? Fury leaned forward. We're going to talk about the Avengers Initiative. James stared at him. With me? He asked flatly. I'm just an intern. Fury smirked. For now. Chapter 34, Talk with Tony. One mission and I'm already on my way to a promotion. So what's the deal with the Avengers Initiative? James asked, pretending he didn't already know. He had to play dumb. At this point, it was just an idea floating around S.H.I.E.L.D. Nothing formal yet. And Stark? He'd be the first on the invite list. We'll talk when we get there, Nick Fury said, standing up. There's someone else who needs to hear it too. Besides, Stark just outed himself as Iron Man. The whole world's buzzing. Nick headed toward the minibar. Want something to drink? Coke with ice, James said. Fury raised a brow. Just Coke? No rum? James held up his right hand and mimicked pulling a trigger. Can't shoot straight with alcohol in the system. Fury chuckled. Fair enough. At least you're committed. He dropped a few cubes into the glass and handed it over. But you're already a millionaire. So why S.H.I.E.L.D.? Why not just retire and enjoy the high life? I could, James said, taking a sip. But that's boring. My first 20 years were quiet. Too quiet. I want something that makes me feel alive. Something that matters and would allow me to leave a legacy. He paused. But if I'm so special, why am I labeled an intern? Fury leaned against the counter. Assassins and agents aren't the same thing. You're great at eliminating targets, sure. But for S.H.I.E.L.D. work? It's more than that. Surveillance, undercover operations, managing intel, tech protocols, classified systems. You're new to all of it. And frankly, we don't fully trust you yet. Before James could respond, Fury's phone rang. Fury. He turned away, voice low. A frozen what? Found him? Still alive? Good. Ship it to New York HQ when it's stable. I'll deal with it after this. Fury hung up, his expression unreadable. James didn't bite. Not gonna ask. If I need to know, you'll tell me. If I don't, I won't hear a word. Fury nodded with a smirk. Now that's sounding like a real agent. James finished his Coke and opened his laptop, checking the live feed of his stocks. Stark Industries, $80.65 a share. With 5 million shares in his pocket, James had just crossed over $400 million in value. And the number was still climbing. 2 hours later, the S.H.I.E.L.D. jet touched down in California. A black SUV picked them up and drove them through winding coastal roads until they reached Stark's cliffside mansion. "Welcome to Stark Villa," said the automated voice of Jarvis. "Mr. Stark is not currently at home. Do you have an appointment?" Fury stepped forward and entered a code on the keypad. James blinked. "You have his security password?" Fury shrugged. "We're S.H.I.E.L.D. It's what we do." The doors unlocked and they stepped inside. The place screamed wealth, floor-to-ceiling glass, ocean views, tech in every corner. But it also screamed vulnerability. Remote location, minimal defenses. James glanced around, thinking about Iron Man 3 and how this place would one day become rubble. He sank into the couch and waited. Dusk crept in before Tony finally arrived. "Jarvis? "Welcome back, sir," the AI replied. Tony froze at the sight of James lounging around in Fury, gazing out over the water. "Okay. Ace, how the hell did you get in here? And who's your friend?" "Nick Fury. Director of S.H.I.E.L.D., Fury said, turning around to face him. Tony raised a brow. "Ah. The mysterious man behind the curtain." Fury didn't waste time. "Mr. Stark. You've made headlines. But you're not the only superhero out there. We're assembling something bigger." "A fan club?" Tony asked dryly. "Look, I appreciate the invite, but I prefer solo gigs." Fury shook his head. "This isn't a team-building exercise. It's the start of the Avengers Initiative." Tony turned to James. "And you? Wesley Gibson, right? You're the sniper who owns 5 million shares of my company now. Didn't peg you for a stock guy." "I used to be an accountant and now I'm Agent James," James said casually. Tony snorted. "An accountant turned assassin turned agent? What's next, ballet?" James smirked. "Not flexible enough." Fury stepped in. "James has a unique physiology, heart rate spikes over 400 BPM, adrenaline surges on command. Reflexes, strength, sensory input, all enhanced. He's on the shortlist for the Avengers." Tony folded his arms. "So you're recruiting super freaks now?" "We're preparing," Fury said. "Aliens exist. We've found traces of extraterrestrial activity across the globe. When something comes, we need people who can fight back. Soldiers can't stop what's out there. But you can." Tony raised a hand. "Hard pass. I build suits. I don't join boy bands." He turned to James. "You sure you want in on this? I could use someone to manage my finances. Flexible hours. Probably less chance of getting shot." James shook his head. "I like my life with a little risk. I've got money. Now I want a purpose." "Smart guy. Fine. You want a drink?" Fury has had enough. "We're done here. We'll meet again." As they walked out, James raised an eyebrow. "We flew cross-country just for that?" Fury shrugged. "We put the idea in his head. That's our job. The threats we're facing won't always come from this planet. You still in?" James nodded. "Sure. Just tell me if my guns work on them. If not, I'm not dying swinging a dagger at aliens." Fury smirked. "We'll supply the hardware." He opened the SUV door. "Now get in. We're heading back to New York. You start your training tomorrow. Times Square HQ bright and early." James sighed. "This is the most flying I've done in a single day." Fury chuckled as the doors shut. "Get used to it in turn." Chapter 35, Thawed and Body Slammed. It was past 8 p.m. when James finally made it home. 6 hours on a plane had drained him. He washed up, fell onto bed, and let gravity claim him as the Sandman came to visit. "Cortana, training starts tomorrow. I'll leave it to you again." "How much of that data have you sorted now?" he asked aloud, eyes closed. 2 millionth of total internet content processed. Satisfied? Cortana's reply flashed in his HUD. James groaned. "At this rate, I'll be 60 before you hit a decent upgrade cycle. Limited biological power output. I'm prioritizing your health over background processing." He nodded to himself. "Fair enough. We'll visit the New York S.H.I.E.L.D. division tomorrow. Maybe they've got something good, a better power source, or maybe we get a chance to get close to the Tesseract. Or maybe I should just steal Stark's arc reactor." The Tesseract and Stark's new element reactor are in different energy classes. Physical contact is required to determine compatibility. Figures. One step at a time, I guess, James muttered. Then sleep took him. The next morning, James woke with more energy than usual. Today, he'd finally stepped foot into S.H.I.E.L.D's New York branch, a place he'd been itching to visit. It meant training, progress, and maybe a few new toys. Morning. Heading to S.H.I.E.L.D. today, he said, passing Carlos at the breakfast table. Good. Learn everything you can. Assassins and agents aren't the same thing. Carlos sipped his coffee, unbothered by anything. You hiring anyone for the flower shop yet? James asked between bites of toast. Yeah, got some. Gotta leave time for fishing, right? James chuckled. We should buy a small boat or perhaps a yacht. Might as well enjoy life if we're gonna pretend we're retired. After eating, James made a stop at the armory. He holstered his 2 pistols, his custom Beretta 92S Imani Shure 17, and the Safari Matchmaster once carried by Fox, then changed into a tailored suit, slim fit, dark gray. He slid into the Audi R8, enjoying the feel of the wheel and the confidence it brings. Driving through Midtown Manhattan in a sports car wasn't as fun as it looked. Stoplights, taxis, and jaywalkers, it was a slow crawl. Sports cars are just a show in New York, he muttered. It's not the Autobahn, your rev-happy speed fantasy is just a waste here. Cortana replied flatly. James smirked. Cortana was the perfect blend of useful and dry humor. He finally pulled up near Times Square, where a sleek glass and steel high-rise stood. From the outside, it looked like just another corporate office building. Business attire, laptops, and coffee cups. No sign that the world's most secret intelligence agency operated inside. He stepped out, straightened his suit, and walked to the front entrance. That's when chaos erupted. Inside the lobby, people scattered as a blond man in a white t-shirt burst through the doors, sprinting straight at him. Army boots, faded dog tags, vintage World War II-era fatigues, and an eagle emblem on his white t-shirt's chest. Familiar, too familiar. Before James could react, the man barreled toward him. James stepped forward instinctively, caught the man's arm mid-charge, rotated his body to guide the man's charge, and executed a clean over-the-shoulder throw without even breaking a sweat. Thud! The blond man slammed into the marble floor. James pinned him, knee on his back, twisting his arm as he pressed on the nerves so he couldn't summon any strength. Behind them, half a dozen S.H.I.E.L.D. agents skidded into the lobby, weapons drawn but frozen at the sight. Black SUVs screeched to a stop outside. Then came the familiar voice, Agent James? He turned to see Nick Fury stepping out of one of the vehicles. Director? James blinked. Is this guy a target? Because if so, your security response is kind of late. Also, I don't have handcuffs. The man beneath him tensed and began to struggle, strong, too strong. James almost lost his grip. All right, good job, but let him up. He's not a prisoner, Fury said, approaching. James stood and took a step back. The blond man got to his feet, glaring at him. Cortana, James whispered. Who is that? Captain America. James blinked. Captain America. Of course. The final scene from the first Avenger. The guy had just been thawed. The man didn't say anything. Just kept scanning the room, eyes darting, tense. What are you looking at me for? James muttered. You tried to ram me. I just reacted. Take it easy, G.I. Joe, Fury said. We thought it'd be better to ease you back into things. Ease on what? The captain asked, confused. You've been asleep, Cap, for 70 years. Silence. The weight of the truth hit like a freight train. Captain America, man out of time, looked around, lost in disbelief. You all right? Fury asked gently. I'm fine. Just missed a date. His voice cracked a little. James could see it, the pain of 70 years lost in a blink. She's still alive, Fury offered quietly. You can see her when you're ready. He turned to James. Walk with us. Your training starts today. Inside, James was met by a striking woman in a fitted navy blazer. Sharp eyes, dark hair, with a quiet sense of control. Agent James, this is Maria Hill, Fury said. She'll be overseeing your registration and coordinating your training. It'll last about 3 months. Daily sessions, 2 days off per week. Your prior mission's been logged, it'll count toward your record. Maria Hill. James recognized her immediately, played by Kobe Smulders in his old life, and definitely prettier in person. Less Hollywood and more battlefield executive vibe. "Welcome," she said, offering a clipboard. "Let's get you processed." "Nice to meet you," James replied, still stealing a glance at her face. He was ready to start. Training, leveling up, and inching closer to the Tesseract. He didn't care if it meant being called an intern agent. He was in the room now, and that was all that mattered. Chapter 36, To Riz and Yacht. Agent James. "Nice to meet you." James extended a hand as he walked up to Maria Hill. To her credit, she didn't snub him or ignore the gesture. She returned the handshake with a calm smile. "I've heard of you. Agent Coulson mentioned you in his last debrief. I also saw your mission file," she said evenly. James raised an eyebrow. "Well, that feels unfair. You know me, but I've got nothing on you. How about dinner tonight? Purely professional, of course. A newcomer needs proper guidance." Hill chuckled. "Sorry, but I'm flying out of New York tonight." "Oh, that's a shame," James said with a grin. "Any chance we can exchange numbers? Just in case I need a request field mentorship." Hill gave a slight smirk. "Sure, but let's get your registration done first." "I figured you guys already had everything. What more do you need?" "Fingerprints, retinal scan, DNA samples, dental records. We don't cut corners even for ace snipers." James groaned. "So basically, my entire being is being copied and uploaded into your top-secret vault. You'll live. And relax, this info is sealed in S.H.I.E.L.D's highest clearance tier. I'm handling it personally if that helps your paranoia." That did help, actually. If Hill was the one logging him in, it meant she was trusted by Fury, probably more than Coulson. That said, he still had one question. "Wait, what about the big guy? Captain America? You making him do all this too?" Hill nodded. "He's already in the system. Registered while he was still frozen." James paused, then raised an eyebrow. "Wait, how does that even?" Hill grinned. "Ask Director Fury." James shrugged. "Fair enough. Just make sure you remember me, Agent Hill. And don't forget the number." After the fingerprinting, retinal scan, dental X-ray, and every other biometric process known to man, James received his new S.H.I.E.L.D. ID. Name, Wesley Gibson. Clearance level, blank. "Why doesn't this have a level?" he asked. "Level gets added after training," Hill explained. "You'll be evaluated and placed. The highest we assign post-training is a Level 3 Special Agent. From there, advancement comes with experience." James let out a breath. "At least I won't be labeled intern forever." He recalled how agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. had Skye not even registered as a proper agent until later seasons. If she could walk into HQ with barely a badge, he was doing fine. "I've got confidence," he said, slipping the ID into his wallet. "Still hoping to earn a chance to treat a certain S.H.I.E.L.D. officer to dinner one day." Hill tilted her head, amused. "We'll see. I'm mostly at headquarters in Washington. If you make it there, maybe you'll get lucky." "I will," James said without hesitation. Hill guided him to the third floor. It was a full training facility: ranges, tracking sims, anti-surveillance drills, tech briefings, disguise protocols. Everything an agent would need. Because of James's existing skills, they skipped basic firearms training and dropped him straight into field survival and counterintel. Once she left, Hill returned to Fury's office downstairs. "How was he?" Fury asked, hands behind his back, looking out the window. "Eager, confident, and tried to charm his way into dinner," Hill said, no trace of embarrassment. "He's got the smile for it. Handsome guy. A little too pushy but not arrogant." Fury raised an eyebrow. Feel free to get to know him better. Don't forget, he's a millionaire. And he's still climbing." Hill gave a short laugh. "What happens when he meets Natasha? You worried?" "Wesley's file says he's never been short of romantic attention. Women tend to like him naturally, even before he got recruited to the fraternity." Fury shrugged. "Then we'll see what he does." Neither of them knew that James wasn't exactly taken with Natalia Alienovna Romanova. He thought she was overhyped, too sharp-featured for his taste. Especially the nose. And the fact that she was technically older than both of them combined didn't help. After leaving HQ, James drove straight to the flower shop. It was still early and he wanted to see how things were going. Carlos was inside, wearing work gloves and supervising a small construction team. "You're back early today?" he asked. "Official training starts tomorrow. I'll be evaluated for my level after it's done. Could be placed as a level 3 agent if I don't screw it up," James said, setting his gear down. "So? How's the florist business coming?" "We finalized a supplier. They'll deliver fresh flowers daily from an upstate nursery. Price is steep, but this neighborhood can afford it." "Good. You found employees yet?" "Plenty of applicants. Problem is, most don't know the difference between a lily and a tulip. I want someone who knows the products." James smirked. "You're starting to sound like a real business owner. Anyway, it's still early. You up for checking out some yachts?" Carlos perked up. "Let's go. We'll take your car." They jumped into the Audi R8 and headed towards the New York Yacht Club, NYYC. One of the oldest in the country, it catered to the rich, the bored, and the boat-obsessed. The club sales office wasn't just for boat buying, it handled maintenance, docking contracts, and yacht customization. Essentially a one-stop money pit. They were greeted by a sharply dressed man in his late 40s. "Gentlemen, welcome. My name is Ross. How can I assist you today?" "We're looking to buy a yacht," James said plainly. "After that, we'll need to rent a berth, schedule regular maintenance, and set up full storage logistics. Can you handle all that?" Ross smiled like a man who had just seen his commission double. "Of course. Right this way. Most yachts are custom-built, so we'll start by reviewing models and specs. The real boats are off-site, but I'll walk you through the options." James and Carlos followed him, taking their first real steps into a new hobby, or, at the very least, a peaceful retirement backup plan. James had lived his whole life surrounded by chaos. Maybe fishing wasn't such a bad idea after all. Chapter 37, Yacht. "You two are in luck," Ross said cheerfully as he led them down a corridor lined with glass panels and digital displays. "We have model showcases for the top 10 yacht brands in the world right here, complete with promotional videos, interior layouts, and performance breakdowns. Whatever you're looking for, you'll find it here." Ross kept talking, but neither James nor Carlos listened. They weren't exactly experts in yachts, and James wasn't about to bug Cortana for assistance either. She was still deep in the process of unlocking and compiling secure data, especially on electronics. Best to let her focus. They entered a sleek, temperature-controlled room filled with scaled yacht models in pristine display cases. Each one had a touchscreen pedestal, rotating spotlight, and digital overlay highlighting the features. Some looked like floating penthouses. Others resembled Bond villain hideouts. The variety was staggering. Father and son split up to browse both sides of the showroom, occasionally pointing things out to each other, and sometimes just standing in silent admiration. It wasn't a rushed purchase. This wasn't a souvenir shop, they were yacht shopping. Multimillion-dollar yacht shopping. After about an hour of walking around and getting introduced to different yachts, James brought over a selection. Carlos, on the other hand, had nothing. "I can't decide," Carlos said, a little sheepish. "They all look great. If anyone were to ask me which one I would like, I'd answer yes." James nodded. "Same. Honestly, I just picked one so we could move on. We're not buying it for daily use. It's just for fishing trips, maybe some ocean lounging, and definitely needs future-proofing." He tapped the spec sheet in his hand. "I'll pick this one, the Boxing 92 by Boxing Yacht, Italian make. Doesn't seem to be common in the US, but it's got the space. 2 master bedrooms, 4 double guest rooms, all with en suites. If we bring guests or if either of us decides to settle down." He shrugged. "We won't be short on space." Carlos nodded. "That's reasonable, trying to think ahead." Ross beamed like he'd just won the lottery. "Excellent choice, gentlemen. European yachts are built with style, durability, and luxury in mind. American models tend to cater more to weekend family trips. The Boxing 92 is a statement. Aristocratic, sophisticated, and most importantly, capable." Ross flipped through his tablet. "She's 27.95 meters long, 6.22 meters wide, draws 1.65 meters of water, weighs about 69 tons, and has a top speed of 41 knots. Ideal for long trips or just cruising near the coast." "And how much?" James asked casually. "About $6 million, Ross said, barely blinking. James didn't either. "We'll take it." Carlos gave a nod. "Decision has been made." Ross blinked, then recovered fast. Very good, sir. The Boxing 92 is custom-built in Italy. Delivery will take about 2 months. Would you like any modifications or personalized options? No. Just the standard build. Quality is what we're paying for, James replied. One thing though, he added. What about rainy weather? That sun deck's massive. I don't want to spend half the year wiping down mildew. No need to worry, Ross assured them. Our NYYC facilities offer full professional care, daily cleaning, maintenance, and security. Personal items are logged and protected. Theft is unheard of. Fine, James said, already done negotiating. I'll pay in full. Draft the contract. Ross nearly tripped over his own growing smile as he handed over the paperwork. 10 minutes later, the yacht was theirs, pending delivery. James left with the instruction manual and a scale model under one arm. Back in the car, Carlos flipped through the brochure, eyes wide like a kid with a new toy. This thing's a luxury, he muttered. Big deck, deep fuel tanks, 6 rooms, this could be a floating house. James glanced over. Don't get too comfortable. You're gonna need a yacht license. No sense in owning one if you can't drive it. Carlos waved a hand. I'll start training tomorrow. I'll swing by the florist in the morning to check progress, then do classes in the afternoon. Shouldn't take too long. James just smirked. You sound a little too confident. Carlos raised an eyebrow. Assassins don't exactly shy away from vehicles. I'll manage. The next day, James headed straight to S.H.I.E.L.D's tactical driving station. He signed up for multi-vehicle training, cars, trucks, boats, yachts, helicopters, even a light aircraft. Fighter jets were on his wish list, but he'd need a higher clearance level and a transfer to Washington for that. The yacht simulator alone was a headache. James could shoot a fly's wing off at 2,500 meters, but maneuvering a 70-ton boat into dock without crashing into another millionaire's toy? Not exactly intuitive. He sighed. Cortana. I'm gonna need some help. Recording mode active. Beginning navigational memory sync. It wasn't instant, but having Cortana log every motion, feedback vibration, and control response helped immensely. Learning without thinking. Learning with feedback. That was the difference between being an assassin and being an agent. One killed, the other adapted. Of course he has Cortana to help with complicated stuff. Driving was only half the struggle. The second half was the classroom work. S.H.I.E.L.D's training included infiltration skills, digital intrusion, safecracking, biometrics bypass, fingerprints, retinas, vocal mimicry, even pheromone locks. All the sci-fi spy stuff James had seen in movies? All real it seems. And maddening. It's not like I can just lick someone's eyeball for retinal data, James grumbled as he skimmed the lesson plan. Please don't. That's inadvisable for multiple reasons. Cortana's text box floated dryly in his vision. James rolled his eyes and went back to studying. Thankfully, basic chemistry, physics, and material knowledge were easy. Cortana absorbed and filed those without any problem. James simply had to be present, focused, and pass the practicals with Cortana. 2 months later, the yacht arrived. Ross stood at the dock like a man who had just delivered a Ferrari to a farm. There she is, gentlemen. Your Boxing 92, he said, gesturing grandly. The white vessel gleamed under the sun like something out of a billionaire's Instagram post. Carlos whistled. James raised an eyebrow. Not bad. Ross clapped his hands together. Fuel, freshwater, systems, everything's just about ready. You'll be seaworthy by tomorrow. We'll need a long-term berth rental, James added. How far in advance can we book? 3 years max, Ross replied. After that, prices adjust annually. Of course they do. James signed the reservation papers. 3 years then. Paid up front. At $70,000 per year it wasn't cheap, but it was worth it. Now they had a yacht, a berth, and a plan. Fishing, sailing, and swimming in the middle of the ocean where monsters could pop out. Knowing that this is Marvel, they might very well exist. Carlos leaned against the railing, looking at the ocean. You know, I never thought I'd be doing this with my son. James smiled. Neither did I. But here we are. I do wonder if the Kraken exists. Chapter 38, Multiple Tests. Don't jinx it, said Carlos, now imagining how he would even kill such a thing. James and Carlos headed out to buy fishing tackle and diving gear. This time, Carlos's pickup finally proved its worth. Its cargo space was ideal for the haul. They picked up 2 full sets of fishing gear and 4 diving kits, all of which were brought directly to the yacht. They were ready to set sail for a short sea trip, but the upcoming S.H.I.E.L.D assessment and the flower shop's grand opening forced a delay in their fishing plans. "What's the name of the shop?" James asked as they prepped to head out early that morning for the ribbon cutting. "Alice Flower Shop," Carlos replied. Alice had been Wesley's mother's name. Clearly, Carlos still held on to that memory. "Not bad," James said, smiling. "But don't get stuck in the past. If someone good comes along, don't hesitate." Carlos gave a grunt of amusement. "I won't. I've already hired a shop assistant. So when are we going fishing?" The shop had taken 3 months to open. Carlos had insisted on doing things right, setting up his own floral network and ensuring the shop ran smoothly from day one. "After the S.H.I.E.L.D assessment," James answered. "No idea what it involves yet." They drove over to the flower shop together. Out front, a woman was sweeping the sidewalk. She wore a checkered flannel shirt tucked into utility pants, practical flat shoes, her brown hair tied back in a ponytail. Gold-rimmed glasses framed her eyes. She looked about 35, refined, not flashy. "This is Alice Hepburn," Carlos introduced. "She's the new employee." Carlos then looks at Alice as he points toward him. "James, my son." James smiled. "Welcome to the family. Please take good care of my dad for me. I travel a lot, so he'll need the company." "Nice to meet you," she replied, a little shy and blushing but warm. James had a feeling something might blossom there. Not that he'd rush it, but it was oddly suspicious that her name is also Alice like his dead wife and the shop's name. He won't question it though. "Well, I'm off. You two enjoy your opening day." He hopped in his sports car and drove straight to the S.H.I.E.L.D New York division. Today was assessment day, and despite his confidence, he wasn't sure what to expect. On the way, his phone rang. "Mr. James," came Philip's voice, "your land has been sold. The winning bid was $435 million. Following your instructions, we applied deductions based on your yacht and flower shop expenses to reduce the tax burden. After fees and taxes, $350 million has been deposited into your account." U.S. taxes were brutal. After cutting out real estate transfer tax, auction house commissions, and the usual bureaucratic bloodletting, he'd lost nearly $100 million in the process. "Good work. Call me if anything else comes up." In America, especially when you're rich, a good lawyer is non-negotiable. At S.H.I.E.L.D headquarters, the assessment began. "Operatives, your exam begins now," the instructor said. "Written portion first. 1 hour. Let's see how you perform under pressure." James opened the test, glanced through the questions, and whispered, "Cortana, answers." 10 minutes later, he handed in a perfect paper. "Mr. James, you're fast," the examiner muttered. "Head to the shooting range. You're expected there." James made his way inside. The indoor range was silent and soundproofed. "Mr. James, welcome," said the firearms instructor. "You'll find 5 disassembled handguns on the table. Your task, assemble one of them, load it, and hit the targets downrange. We clear." "Crystal." James scanned the parts. Cortana displayed the weapon schematics in a hut of his eye. He went for the Beretta 92F, his preferred pistol, with the highest round count, 15. "Begin." James moved in a blur. Both hands grabbed pieces and clicked them together. As adrenaline kicked in, his perception slowed and everything around him felt weightless. The pistol snapped together, the clip loaded, and he emptied all 15 rounds into the bullseye before ejecting the magazine and racking the slide one last time. Perfect performance. Total time, 35 seconds. The instructor looked stunned. "You're done here. Head to the main entrance, the driving instructor's waiting." James raised a brow but complied. Downstairs, a gruff man handed him a key. "There's a car in the garage. Find it. Instructions are inside. Go." No electronic fob. No remote. Just a plain key. Wesley glanced at the logo, Ford Mustang. He jogged to the garage entrance, found a camera monitor, and checked where the Mustang was parked. 2nd floor. He ran. He reached the car, unlocked it manually, and found a folder in the passenger seat. Opening it, he glanced over the instructions, then started the engine and rolled out. Destination, the same yacht club he and Carlos had visited before. Traffic was light, so he pushed the car close to the speed limit but never broke it. This was about precision, not recklessness. At the yacht club, Ross stepped outside, recognizing the driver of the car. Mr. James. James raised a finger to his lips. Shoo. Ross got the message and stepped back. James sprinted to a small speedboat, jumped in, started it, and took off toward open water. Ross blinked. Assessment, huh? He smiled and shook his head. Of course it is. Chapter 39, Sketchy Finance Firm. This was the Hudson River, and across the river was New Jersey. James was going to drive straight over. There was a seaplane at a pier opposite, and James was going to fly it back. What a strange test. He drove the speedboat directly according to the GPS. Sure enough, there was a seaplane waiting, and he boarded and started it. The seaplane was relatively easy to fly. He needed to fly across the river again, but not to the yacht club, this time to another location. After landing, there was a helicopter, and James boarded and started it. He piloted the helicopter back to the rooftop of the S.H.I.E.L.D. building and landed. James walked out, but as soon as he stepped off the helicopter, agents surrounded him, looking like they were ready to apprehend him. His heart began to race, and he immediately ran forward. When the 6 agents saw James trying to run, they moved to surround him, but they were too slow compared to James's special ability. Everything seemed to move in slow motion. They were no match for him. Still, he didn't kill them. He figured this was part of the test. After knocking them out, he continued downstairs. Why did you come down by yourself? An examiner asked, watching him curiously as he came down from the rooftop to the top-floor elevator. I knocked down 6 people, so of course I came down by myself. Do they have the test on them? James asked. No. They were supposed to escort you down for interrogation and testing. The instructor looked at James speechlessly. 6 level 5 agents taken down just like that? Interrogation test? I don't think you know much about my past. I've been through this plenty. I was beaten up by a mechanic and a butcher for 5 weeks. Well, you passed by defeating them. Now go to your classroom for the final assessment. The examiner sighed and let him go. After all, James had technically passed. If they couldn't even catch him, what was the point of interrogating him? But the people behind him weren't so lucky. The 6 level 5 agents felt humiliated, and others behind them got beat up before even making it down. James, you are really outstanding. This is your final assessment. You have 1 week. James frowned. A whole week? He took the file and scanned it, then understood. The target was Frank Horman, a former level 6 S.H.I.E.L.D. agent who resigned and became head of security at a financial investment company. James's mission was to infiltrate his home and retrieve something, anything useful. The mission requirements were vague, but he didn't ask questions. He took the file and left. Sitting in his sports car, he spoke to Cortana. This mission is really vague. And the guy's background is suspicious. Maybe it has something to do with Hydra, Cortana replied. Yeah, that makes sense. Nick Fury probably assigned a bunch of rookies to stir up old dirt. These people might not be Hydra themselves, but Fury probably noticed something. Setting these as test targets makes sense. Rookies wouldn't be in danger even if things go wrong. Exactly. What's your plan? Observe first, obviously. James started the car and headed home. The target's company was in New York. After getting home, he changed into jeans and a jacket, then took a taxi to the target's office, a financial investment firm. This company needs a head of security? And they hired a retired agent? That's overkill. Financial firms deal in money, but they aren't banks. There's no cash involved. At most, the information is valuable. That's the real question. Something's off about this place, James muttered as he walked in, sipping iced Coke. Don't forget he was a millionaire. Sir, may I ask why you're here? The company was located on the 16th floor. The whole floor was full of financial firms. It looked big, but stopping visitors right at the door seemed excessive. Why? Isn't this a finance firm? Don't you offer services to clients? James asked with arrogance. Of course, but... The security guard hesitated, clearly implying James wasn't dressed the part. Ha! So you're turning away a millionaire? Your company must be something special, James said loudly, so everyone inside could hear. Frank Horman walked out. What's going on? Are you the manager? James asked before the guard could reply. I'm the head of security. What can I do for you, sir? Your guard refused entry to a millionaire. I'm curious, how much is your company worth exactly? I apologize. He wasn't aware. Please come in. We welcome all investors, big or small. Frank smiled but didn't scold the guard. The guard didn't look worried either. That was suspicious. That's more like it. James sipped his Coke as he walked in. The office felt too quiet, not as busy as a major firm. Plenty of people, but they didn't seem to be doing anything. This is our business manager. He's experienced and can answer any questions. Great. I'm curious about a recent land auction, over $400 million in value. What's your opinion on it? James asked directly. We don't prioritize those kinds of investments, the man replied. That answer told James what he needed to know. He wasn't really asking about the deal, he was testing how they treated high-value clients. And these guys weren't even trying. Any proven cases of success? James asked, frowning. We have many, but they're confidential. Do you have any stock options? We've got insider info. If you invest with us, you won't lose money. But keep that to yourself. I see. That explains a lot. I still need time to think. James finished his Coke and walked out, looking disappointed. Then he went straight downstairs. Chapter 40, Assessment's True Purpose. Downstairs, James went straight to shopping, then visited a high-end clothing store to buy new clothes. He bought a lot, moving like a man with money to burn, before finally taking a car to Stark Tower. James was certain someone was tailing him, so he didn't head home. Instead, he went directly to Stark Tower. After all, he was a shareholder. While not on the board of directors, his shares were significant. 5 million shares, even as ordinary stock, were worth hundreds of millions. That gave him the right to check the books. Inside Stark Tower, a receptionist greeted him. Sir, what can I do for you? I'm looking for Stark. Is he here? Do you have an appointment? She asked professionally. No appointment. Is that a problem? James replied. Sorry, we can't disclose the CEO's schedule without an appointment, she answered with a polite smile. James, however, was paying more attention to the Stark Industries logo on the wall behind her. Reflected in the glass, he could still see the stalker lingering outside. I'm a shareholder. Call Stark and tell him James is here. He'll know. He stood there in jeans and a leather jacket, holding luxury shopping bags, looking both casual and out of place. The receptionist paused, glanced at the bags, and then nodded. Please wait a moment. She called Pepper Potts directly. Sir, please follow me. Miss Potts has asked you to come to the top floor. The elevator he was led to had a security system. It was separate from the others. James stepped in and the elevator car lifted straight to the top. Outside, the man who had been tailing him watched, then turned away. Mission complete. If James could access the top floor, he had to be the real deal. Hey, Mr. Ace, what brings you here? Pepper asked with a smile. Where's Tony? James asked, setting his shopping bags down. He's buried in preparations for the Stark Expo. 3 more months to go, Pepper said. James did the math. It had been 3 months since the battle at the Stark Energy Center. Stark hadn't even gone to the Senate Armed Services Committee yet. There was still time. That's all right. I just came to see him. If he's not here, I'll head out. Mr. Ace. Since the expo's in 3 months. Make sure to come support us, Pepper said, handing him an invitation. Don't worry. I'll be there. With the way my stocks are rocketing, trusting Stark was the right call. Of course. You won't be disappointed. I'll let Tony know you came. After heading downstairs, James slipped into a bathroom, changed into different clothes, and exited from the back entrance. He made his way home, taking a roundabout route before finally heading upstairs. S.H.I.E.L.D. really knows how to make things difficult, he muttered. Maybe all the other assessment targets are fake and only mine is real. He dropped the shopping bags by the door, opened the fridge, grabbed a can of Coke and chugged it. Then he let out a loud burp. This could be your chance. You might get promoted to level 3 or higher, Cortana said. But it's risky. Hydra isn't a joke. They've gone after Nick Fury himself. Damn it. James slammed the can down. Maybe Frank Horman isn't even my real target. This whole thing could be a one big test of his trust. You can't be passive about this. You're right. I need to call Phil. If they suspect internal corruption, I can't investigate casually. If HYDRA finds out, both their plan and I will get burned. James pulled out the encrypted S.H.I.E.L.D. phone Phil had given him. Where are you? he asked when the line connected. What can I do for you? Phil responded. Did you assign me this exam content? Not bad. You spotted the issue? Yeah. That financial firm is shady. It's clearly laundering money. What exactly do you want me to investigate? Or should I report it in now? No. Your assessment is still your assessment. Focus on your target and that's it. If you find anything else, just report it. Don't dig too deep on your own. Why didn't you just say that earlier? James was clearly annoyed. This is also part of the test, Phil replied calmly. He didn't elaborate, but James understood. This was a test of judgment. If he had missed the signs or noticed but kept quiet, he would have been capped at level 3. No exceptions. Being an agent isn't simple. Fine, I got it. James hung up. Phil, back at S.H.I.E.L.D's Washington HQ, looked at the others. He noticed and called. He seems clean. Very clean. Nick Fury and Maria Hill were both present. Right now we're just suspicious of him. I only trust the two of you. I don't know who else we can rely on, so we test him like this. Hopefully he doesn't take it personally, Fury said seriously. Meanwhile, James had no idea what was happening behind the scenes. He only knew that his situation just got more complicated. Now there were 2 missions. One involved the head of security's home. The other, the shady financial company. The work felt delicate, too delicate for someone like him. He sighed and entered the armory. A large black box of gear sat waiting. Last time he only pulled out his phone, radio, and laptop. This time he planned to dig deeper. He opened the box and sorted through the equipment. A decoder, a monitoring jammer, a fingerprint scanner, a retinal scanner, and voice recorders. He packed everything up. He was going to make a move tonight. The first stop was Frank Horman's home, to the head of security. He didn't need to investigate the place. He could just kill his way through. Are you really going to kill your way through? Cortana asked. James was already in the parking lot, loading up the Chevrolet Suburban. That's right. I'm going to keep it simple. Complete the mission while leaving behind just a little regret. Which is for the best, he said as he started the engine. Why? Cortana asked. Because I understand now. I'm doing 2 missions. But this test doesn't matter. They won't promote me beyond level 3 no matter what. Going higher would make me too visible. That's not what Phil or the others want. Chapter 41, Sneaky Sneaky. The second mission is the financial company, James muttered. That can't be exposed, so I'll use the first mission to cover it up. If it works, great. If not, I'll kill everyone involved. He was angry now. Not because he was afraid, but because Carlos had finally settled into a quiet life. A mission like this could bring enemies to his doorstep. Did Phil and the others not think of that? He drove quickly toward Frank Horman's house. It was a villa, but probably not too expensive. In the US, some apartments cost more than stand-alone homes. James pulled out his binoculars and surveyed the property. There wasn't much surveillance, which struck him as odd. This guy was supposed to be the head of security? The security here's pretty weak, James said aloud. You should still be cautious, Cortana replied. I still have limitations thanks to you. I'll wait until after midnight. He parked a fair distance away, reclined his seat, and let Cortana help him sleep. One benefit of sharing a brain with an AI, she could instantly make him fall asleep and wake him precisely on time. At exactly midnight, his eyes opened. Cortana had done her job. He straightened the seat, grabbed the binoculars again, and scanned the property. The villa was dark. James stepped out and retrieved his backpack from the back seat. Let's check for any external surveillance, he said, his tone low. The villa wasn't isolated. Houses stood on both sides. Most of the residents here were likely mid-tier executives or small business owners. As James scanned the neighborhood, Cortana began processing data. This is the route, she said. Avoids all nearby surveillance. He slipped on a black baseball cap and a face covering, then moved quietly along the suggested path. Reaching the outer wall, he vaulted over and landed softly on the lawn. His hand instinctively reached for his pistol, a Beretta 92F with a silencer. He crouched to examine the area. The security focused mostly on the front entrance. There were no cameras along the outer wall, which was strange. He crept toward one of the windows, gently testing it. It was locked. He let it be. The house had 2 floors. Finding no accessible openings on the ground floor, he began to climb. On the second floor, he pushed on another window. It gave way. He lifted it, slipped inside, and closed it behind him. Be careful. This was too easy, Cortana warned. Yeah, I don't like it either. As his eyes swept across the room, Cortana enhanced his sight. Hold on. Adjusting retinal vision. James's vision blurred briefly. What are you doing? He asked. Turning your retina into night vision. Please wait, done. Recovering sight. His eyes cleared. So cool. Night vision through the naked eye, like having a built-in tactical lens. He had entered through the second-floor bathroom. American homes really do have too many bathrooms, he muttered. He stepped out into the hallway. The layout was simple, with doors on both sides. He checked the first room, an empty guest bedroom. The second was another bathroom. The third was a study. He examined the study carefully, even the walls, but there were no safes or hidden compartments. Guess it's either in the master bedroom or on the first floor, James said. I'll start downstairs. Avoid the bedroom unless necessary. He made his way down carefully. On the first floor, he moved through the kitchen, dining room, and living room until he reached a wooden door. He opened it and found a steel security door blocking the basement. This might be it. He studied the door and noticed a fingerprint scanner beside the handle. Figures. He turned back toward the kitchen. Frank lived alone, so his prints had to be somewhere in there. James pulled out his portable scanner and activated it. A soft blue light swept across the surfaces. To his surprise, there were 3 distinct fingerprint patterns. He focused on the one that appeared most frequently and loaded a silicone film into the scanner. After copying, he carefully removed it, a perfect match. Back at the basement door, James removed his gloves, pressed the silicone print against his finger, and held it to the scanner. Click. Access granted. He eased the door open and stepped inside. The basement wasn't small. Maybe 15 square feet. It looked more like a personal gallery than a storage space. Paintings, sculptures, art. James scanned the room, searching carefully. Nothing stood out. Cortana got tips? Should I steal a painting? He asked, jokingly annoyed. Just take only one. You haven't checked the master bedroom yet. James hesitated. The bedrooms were supposed to be off-limits. But he had hypnotic gas in his bag. That changed things. He returned upstairs and listened at the bedroom door. Nothing but soft breathing. He put on his gas mask, retrieved the small tank, and inserted the nozzle under the door. Turning the valve, he waited. His method tonight was crude. It would leave traces, yes, but nothing that could identify him. That was the point. After a few minutes, he packed the canister, opened the door, and stepped inside. Frank Horman was unconscious, lying in bed. The room was average in size, with a closet, dresser, and various women's items scattered across the surface. Odd. Frank wasn't married. Who did those belong to? James started searching. Inside the closet, he found a small hidden compartment. No security, no lock. Inside was a folder. He flipped it open. Government documents. Project details. Names, codes, and signatures. James snapped photos, then carefully returned everything to its place. There was nothing else. He walked out quietly, closing the door behind him, hopefully leaving everything as is with barely a trace to be found. Chapter 42, Mapping the Facade. James returned to the car and began to think. First, the head of security's home is a joke. The place is full of holes. He took a breath and continued. Second, there's nothing important there. Just some art and the intel I found. Third, he's clearly a bait. The financial company might be laundering money for someone, but the only thing that stands out is the former S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. His house was practically left open so I could discover that file. They're running a low-key insider trading ring, not some giant conspiracy. Still a risky job. The low-profile approach fits. These companies quietly use insider info to make money. Simple, effective, and hard to trace, Cortana said. Yeah, but this isn't enough to build a full case. Forget it. Let's just finish the assessment. It's only been a day, right? James drove home and went straight to bed. The next morning, Frank Horman woke up, noticed nothing missing, and went about his day like nothing had happened. James gathered his gear and headed to S.H.I.E.L.D.'s New York branch. Instructor, here's my report, he said, handing over a USB stick. The examiner plugged it in and reviewed the files. This matches our records. Your assessment is complete. Wait for further instructions. Yes, sir. With the first task complete, James returned home, prepped quickly, and headed out again. He went to the mall, bought a fresh set of clothes, and changed in the restroom. Then he applied light makeup. The charming young face disappeared. In the mirror stood a bearded, slightly tired-looking middle-aged man in plain clothing. He held a newspaper in one hand, a hot dog in the other, and walked to a bench near the financial company. He sat and began flipping through the job listing section. A middle-aged man looking for work. Nothing suspicious. In a city like New York, that was common. James watched the building carefully. Infiltrating from the outside would be obvious. Breaking a window would trigger alarms. If they caught wind of a break-in, the whole operation would lose value. We need the building's blueprint, he muttered, finishing the hot dog and brushing off his hands. He left the area and made his way toward City Hall. Architectural plans were kept by the city's records department. Fire and police departments needed access to them, which meant there had to be a way in. But getting a structural blueprint wasn't easy. It was considered a mid-tier security asset. Anyone using ID to request one would leave a trail. James couldn't afford that. He loitered near the municipal office, watching people come and go. Target spotted. Brown-haired male, early 30s. 9 o'clock. Municipal office assistant, Cortana said. James walked toward him and bumped into him lightly, his hand brushing the ID clipped to the man's chest. I'm so sorry, James said quickly, crouching down to pick up the card. You dropped your ID. My fault. No worries. Are you all right? I'm fine. Really sorry about that. He handed the ID back and walked away. During the bump, his portable scanner had already copied the magnetic stripe. He duplicated it onto a blank card and entered the City Hall's public records area without raising any alarms. Making his way to a computer, he swiped the ID, pressed a finger to the USB port, and whispered, "You can crack this, right?" "Yes. Basic 6-digit code. Nothing advanced here." A moment later, Cortana decrypted the login by sending tiny jolts of electricity through James' finger. James accessed the structural plans for the summer building. Cortana recorded everything, and they were out in less than 3 minutes. Back at the mall, James returned to the restroom, changed again, wiped off the makeup, and became himself once more. He picked up his car and drove home. Sitting at his desk, he pulled up the blueprints via Cortana, uploading it to his computer. All right. Show me entry routes into the financial firm. 3 routes: front entrance, building exterior, ventilation ducts. The ducts, huh? James leaned in, studying the diagram. That's the only viable way. I'll have to enter from the rooftop and crawl through the vents. Yesterday, he had observed the building's entrance security. It was tight. More importantly, the firm system was separate from the building's general security. The line didn't pass through the main system. He couldn't hack it from the outside. I'll move tonight. But first, I'm checking in on Carlos. James had come home late last night. Carlos had already gone to bed. This morning, James had left early and missed him again. He drove to the flower shop. It was nearly 5 p.m. and offices nearby were closing for the day. Business was busy. James stayed in the car and watched for a while. Inside, Carlos and Alice worked behind the counter, arranging flowers, handling customers, laughing quietly between rushes. It made him feel something warm. Something whole. After half an hour, the foot traffic slowed and James stepped inside. "Looks like business is good," he said. Carlos looked up and grinned. "Yeah. Some people get off work, buy flowers, then head off to their dates and stuff. This location's been great." James turned to Alice. "How's the job treating you?" "Not bad," she replied, smiling. "It gets busy around lunch and dinner, but it's quiet the rest of the time. The vibe here is really nice." "Glad to hear it. I don't know why I didn't think of this sooner," James said. "Flower shops are great places to work." He turned back to Carlos. "By the way, I've been a little busy. No need to wait up for me for dinner. I'll handle my own meals." Carlos raised an eyebrow, but James gave him a wink. "Use the free time to reward your employee," he said casually, then slipped out. Seeming to be completely misreading the situation, or is he? Chapter 43, Finance Infiltration. James came and went quickly, heading straight home. Getting to the top of the building was its own problem, and he needed to prepare. He laid out his equipment. 2 industrial suction cups, a black flight suit, a low-altitude parachute, a compact backpack for tools, his long and short dagger, his Beretta 92F and M1911 with silencers. No room for large weapons. His decoding gear was more complete this time. The only uncertainty was how the safe at the financial firm would be secured. If it was electronically locked, he could have Cortana unlock it, but if it was mechanical, it would complicate things immensely. After packing up, James started the Chevy Suburban and drove around the target building a few times, careful not to take the same route and be suspicious of scouting around. He parked 2 blocks away and waited for nightfall. At midnight he moved. There was no surveillance in the alley he chose. He changed into the flight suit, strapped on the parachute, and secured his backpack to his front. Then he began to climb. The building was 32 floors tall, over 100 meters high. He secured the first suction cup, pressed the air release and intake buttons, and locked it firmly to the glass. Then he repeated the motion with the second cup, moving upward step by step like the suction cup man but slower. "Phew," he muttered under his breath. 1 word, tired. 2 words, very tired. It took 20 minutes to reach the rooftop. No safety rope, no harness, only strength and sheer will. He was exhausted. Agents in movies were totally not human. After resting for a moment, he removed the rooftop ventilation cover and climbed into the shaft. Once inside, he resealed the vent and began to inch downward, feet and hands pushed on the vent wall to control his descent as his back slid down to a horizontal duct. "Crawling route is marked," Cortana said. James lay flat, took off his backpack and pushed it ahead of him as he moved through the duct. He reached the financial firm section on the 16th floor and stopped. Below, surveillance was everywhere. He waited, scouting. Eventually, he dropped into an executive office that had no visible cameras. It looked like the investment director's office. James swept the room but found nothing important. He tried accessing the computer, but Cortana couldn't crack the firewall. "Too advanced?" he asked. "More than I can handle on-site with my available energy. You'll have to leave it." James shut the machine down. He approached the door and peeked through the frosted glass. "There are blind spots. That'll work." He moved quietly, keeping to corners and edges where the cameras couldn't reach. Finally, he crouched under camera and pulled out a S.H.I.E.L.D-issued signal interceptor. Connecting the device's 2 signals leads to the data lines behind the camera, he activated the cracking tool. This particular system was built by S.H.I.E.L.D. Cortana hadn't touched it before, and James kept her out of it to stay safe. Her existence had to remain a secret. He accessed the camera network. S.H.I.E.L.D. gear never failed. Once the link was active, he pressed his finger to the control pad and let Cortana take over, altering the recorded footage and looping neutral scenes. "You have 30 minutes. After that, I'll need to revert the feed," she warned. James moved quickly. There were no overnight guards inside. Only the building's general patrol units outside. Surveillance was the only threat, and now it was blinded. He made his way to the general manager's office. There it was, a safe behind a cabinet. "Fingerprint and passcode," he noted. He pulled out a compact decoding device and pressed it to the keypad. A green light scanned the surface. Fingerprints lit up on the screen. Cortana analyzed pressure depth and angle to determine the most likely key order. James nodded. He'd seen this trick before, in a S.H.I.E.L.D. file on Natasha Romanoff from his old life made for the fans. Simple and reliable. He duplicated the fingerprint using silicone, then entered the code. The safe opened with a quick click. Inside were financial records, transfer documents, investment strategies, and a black ledger. James recorded everything. The entries in the ledger didn't match the other files, and they looked coded. Still, he copied it all and returned everything to its original position. Time to go. He backtracked, stopped by the surveillance node, and reconnected the camera to restore the original feed. Then he climbed back into the ventilation system. After reaching the roof again and sealing the vent, he sat down, breathing heavily. "I'm exhausted. Being an agent is a whole different beast compared to being an assassin." "You're tired, but your brain activity suggests you're enjoying this." James grinned. "Yeah, it's kind of exciting." He packed up, stood at the edge of the roof, and jumped when no one would be looking his way. His heart pounded and his perception slowed. He felt every gust of wind, every angle of descent. At just the right moment, he opened the chute. He drifted toward his park Suburban, touched down smoothly, bundled the chute, and tossed it in the back seat. Back at home, he uploaded all the records to his computer. Then he called Phil. I found something. It's encrypted or coded. I don't know how to read it, so I'm sending it to you. Got it. Send it over. You did well. Your level 3 special agent status has been approved. You're under my command now. I believe you'll climb fast. I hope so. But this mission almost brought danger to Carlos. I'd like to avoid that going forward. You will. You'll be flying incognito more often from now on. James ended the call and put his gear away in the armory. He walked to the kitchen and Carlos stepped out. You're back. Yeah. Didn't the soundproofing work? I wasn't sleeping. I was on the phone with Alice. Things are going really well. He smiled. Let me warm up the soup for you. It tastes terrible cold. James chuckled and began pulling ingredients from the fridge. Chapter 44, Gaining Progress. Looks like your second spring is coming, James said casually. Does she have any family here? Her parents live in Europe. She's British but has been in the US for a few years now, Carlos replied, reheating a bowl portion of soup in a pot. Not bad, James said. But I think I'll run a background check on her. If it comes back clean, you can date her without worry. He grabbed a piece of pandesal they bought in a local Asian store, putting it on a plate as he sat down on the table and waited for the soup. You think something's off about her? Carlos didn't look surprised. It's not a suspicion. It's just caution. Our lives are complicated now. My work especially. And something about her caught my attention. Her name, her timing, and the way she knows flowers. It's all just a little too perfect. He didn't say it out loud, but Alice reminded him of their mother. That alone was enough of a red flag. If someone's trying to use that to get close to us, they're already dead. Carlos nodded. Fair enough. Check it out. If she is trouble, I'll pick up a gun again. James knew his father well. Carlos was still an assassin at heart. Top-tier assassins never trusted easily, especially when relationships developed fast. There was a good chance Carlos had been quietly investigating her too. Meow. A fluffy fur ball of a tail came out under the table. All right, Annie, I'll give you some attention. James patted his lap as Annie jumped on it, allowing him to give her some nice petting and expecting some treats later. Carlos on the side just smiles as he serves him the soup and talks about how their day went. The next morning, James received a message. His credentials had been updated. He was now a certified Level 3 special agent. He drove to the S.H.I.E.L.D. precinct. Congratulations, Agent James, the instructor said, handing him a new ID. You're officially an agent. No assignments at the moment. You'll take orders from Agent Phil Coulson. Thank you, sir. Not being an internship feels good. James left the building and sat in his car. He scanned the ID thoroughly to ensure it didn't contain any hidden trackers. Satisfied, he slipped it into his jacket and pulled out his encrypted phone. I'm level 3 now, he told Phil. Just reporting in. Any instructions? None for now, Phil replied. I'll be in touch soon. Can't talk much at the moment and congratulations. James guessed it had something to do with Stark. S.H.I.E.L.D. was probably scrambling behind the scenes. Tony's health was declining, and the palladium poisoning was only getting worse. Back home, James opened his laptop, logged into the S.H.I.E.L.D. database and searched for Alice Roy. S.H.I.E.L.D.'s internal network linked directly to national intelligence, voter records, and law enforcement systems. Practically everyone in the U.S. was in there somewhere. Alice Roy. 32. British national. Moved to the States at 25. She studied oil painting in the UK and came to America hoping to build a name for herself as an artist. A few of her pieces had sold, but none for notable sums. She had been working day jobs to support her dream. No signs of suspicious activity. She wasn't an only child either. She had a younger brother and sister, both living in the UK. Even her extended family checked out. James leaned back in his chair. That kind of access from just a level 3 clearance was impressive. Surface-level civilian data was wide open. But anyone trying to infiltrate their lives wouldn't make rookie mistakes. If Alice really was planted, the surface info would be airtight. He picked up his phone and called someone who could help, Maria Hill. Hi, beautiful, he said. Well, hello, handsome. Miss me? Hill's voice was light, almost teasing, clearly playing along. James blinked, caught off guard for a second. He recovered immediately. Of course. Isn't it a man's duty to think about a woman's well-being? Flatterer. Where are you now? Washington? Or flying in to buy me dinner? Dinner might have to wait a few days. Just wrapped up my assessment today. I'm calling because I need a favor from a beautiful woman who may or may not have a soft spot for me. Hill laughed softly. James hadn't expected this kind of banter between them, but she was playing it like they had chemistry, like a true seasoned agent trained in espionage. He decided to roll with it. I knew you had a reason for calling. Go ahead. You should already have access to my file. I want everything you can find on Alice Roy. He didn't believe S.H.I.E.L.D. wasn't already watching. We're on it, Hill said. But we're keeping it quiet. Few people even know you exist right now. We're using a team that technically isn't S.H.I.E.L.D. You understand what that means, right? Yeah, James said. You've got problems inside. Exactly. We're not sure how deep it goes yet. No hard evidence. Got it. So I'm part of the organization now. You are? And if you see something, say something. Why didn't Phil tell me this directly? We weren't going to say anything. But you called me. I figured it was time. Also, I accept your dinner invitation. James paused. Really? Is this a honey trap? 'Cause I'm walking right into it. I figured you wouldn't mind. I don't. But one thing's clear, my father's off limits. He's retired. If anyone tries to drag him into this, I don't care who it is. I'll deal with it. After they hung up, Hill immediately called Nick Fury. James called. He asked about Alice Roy. Wants us to confirm she's clean. We can't guarantee anything right now, Fury said. We're stretched too thin. I told him about the internal issues. If he finds something, he'll let us know. You think someone will make contact with him? I don't know. But he's part of us now. How'd you manage to win him over? I accepted his dinner invitation. You sure about that? He's charming. And I'm still single. Hill ended the call. Back in the apartment, James sat on the couch with the phone in his hand, thinking. Hydra had already begun to rot S.H.I.E.L.D. from the inside. Eventually, the organization would fall apart. Coulson would die and come back. S.H.I.E.L.D. agents would scatter and go underground. Should he change something? Should he start preparing for what was coming? Chapter 45, Boat Barbecue. James was on standby, waiting for a call from Phil Coulson or a message from Maria Hill. But Christmas arrived first, and he decided to spend it with Carlos. Let's go out to sea for Christmas, James said one morning. What do you think? We haven't used the yacht yet. We could bring Alice too. Carlos grinned. Of course. What should we bring? I'll handle it. I'll prep barbecue supplies, seasonings, vegetables, fruits, and fishing gear. Maybe we'll get lucky and have some sashimi. At the very least, grilled fish. Sounds great. I'll leave it to you then. Go buy what you need. I'll walk to the flower shop. Take a weapon with you, James said, lowering his voice. I've got someone looking into Alice. There might be something off. Better to be armed. Don't worry about me. I'm not exactly weak, Carlos replied reassuringly. I know. But I still don't want anything to happen to you. I'm starting to think I shouldn't have joined S.H.I.E.L.D. Carlos walked over and patted his shoulder. No. This is the life you chose. So enjoy it. I can handle myself. And if anyone comes after us, well, we're not exactly easy targets, are we? James looked at his father and nodded. You're right. We're not afraid of anything. Anyone with bad intentions? We'll deal with them. Carlos gave a short laugh. That's more like it. James finally understood something. Carlos was never weak. If anything, he was only getting stronger. There was no reason to worry. They weren't superheroes, sure, but against regular people? They were more than enough. As long as bullets could kill, they had nothing to fear. Carlos saw the shift in James's expression and smiled. Good. You're figuring it out. James grinned. Yeah. If someone dumb enough comes knocking, we'll handle it. Exactly. We're assassins. And we never miss. They were quiet for a moment, both aware of the unspoken truth. Even superheroes had weaknesses. Stark had Pepper. Thor had Jane. Yet Hydra had never dared to touch them. Why? Because the consequences weren't worth it. Power was its own deterrent. James drove his pickup and started gathering supplies. A new grill, a full barbecue set, meats, drinks, and extras. Then he headed to the yacht club, hoping to get some fishes easily to cook with. "Hello, Mr. James. Heading out to sea today?" Ross greeted him. "Yeah, Christmas Eve cruise. Help me prep the yacht, would you?" James stepped out and started unloading after giving a nice tip to Ross to help him out. "Of course. Everything will be ready." By the morning of December 24th, James had everything loaded. He parked his car, carried a large black bag onto the yacht, and checked the onboard storage. The bag held weapons, licensed firearms legally stored on the yacht. An AWP sniper rifle, several handguns, and 2 semi-automatic rifles. All legally purchased and permitted for civilian use. Carlos arrived a bit later with Alice. "You're early," he said. "Just getting everything in place. Drinks are in the fridge. We're ready to go." James had been watching Alice closely for a while now, but nothing seemed off. Still, he asked quietly, "Anything you can do, Cortana?" "Yes." James raised an eyebrow. He hadn't expected an actual answer. "Really? Like what? Did you forget? I'm a biological computer. I move freely within your body." James froze for a second. "Wait, so you can control me?" "No. I don't have access to that kind of energy consumption. I can communicate and interface with your body, but we're linked. I can't exist without you. You have full control. You even have the password." "Password? Why would you need a password?" "Because I'm built from your old computer system and your phone OS. The first password comes from your computer. The second from your phone. My program doesn't allow me to bypass them." James blinked. It was strange but really convenient and reassuring. "So what about upgrades or updates?" "They require your permission. You must enter the first command." He relaxed slightly, though the whole thing made him more cautious. "Fine. So how do you analyze Alice?" "Standard tech can't read lies, but I can detect brain activity. All I need is physical contact." "You couldn't have said that earlier?" "I didn't know myself. That function only activated recently when I started managing your biological clock." So that's how she had been waking him on time. "That's extremely useful and scary," James said, smiling. "If I can use that on Hydra agents, I might actually be able to save S.H.I.E.L.D., if I get a high enough clearance, of course." The yacht pulled out onto the Hudson River, moving steadily toward open waters. The Statue of Liberty stood tall in the distance. The river was crowded today. Plenty of boats were heading out to sea. Christmas Eve on the water, an upper-class New York tradition. James passed a few luxury yachts that were already throwing parties. "Carlos, this spot is perfect," James said, easing the yacht to a stop. "We can see the skyline and fish." Carlos looked out over the water. "Good call. We've been putting this trip off too long." "I'll handle the grill," Alice said cheerfully. "You two go fish. I'll pour you some beer while I roast the meat. Feels like a real Christmas Eve just without the snow." James glanced at her. Still nothing suspicious. But soon he'd know for sure. Chapter 46, You're Fired. "Thanks, Alice. Great idea," James said with a smile. "You're welcome to join us for fishing. We've got plenty of tackle." He started moving the gears to the stern. The back platform was wide and open, perfect for grilling and casting lines. The grill was already hot, coals blazing under the metal grate. James and Carlos sat down in folding fishing chairs, baiting their hooks. "What do you think of her?" Carlos asked, eyes fixed on the water. "You think someone sent her?" James kept his voice casual. "The more I look at her, the more she reminds me of her. I'll go and check her palm readings later." Carlos raised an eyebrow. "You know palm reading now?" "I understand people through interaction. Do you trust me?" "Why wouldn't I?" The December wind cut cold over the Hudson River, but the two were layered in warm jackets. Alice brought out ingredients and focused on grilling behind them. Then, within minutes, James's rod bent. A fish had taken the bait. "Oh wow. That was quick," Alice said cheerfully. James reeled it in and dropped it in the bucket. "I've got a bit of luck on my side. That's why I picked this spot from the results of my fortune-telling." "Really?" she asked, tilting her head. "Yeah. In fact, I can read people's luck through their palm. Wanna try palmistry?" He held out his hand. "Give me your hand. I'll show you something of ancient mysticism." Curious, Alice placed her hand in his. Biowave activating. Bioenergy linking. Neural scan initiated, Cortana said. James's heart picked up pace. His perception slowed. Energy starts flowing through his palms into hers. A sort of wave starts resonating through his palms into mind. He traced the lines on Alice's palm as he spoke. This is your lifeline and here is your fate line. Cortana's voice filled his mind. Alice Roy, real name confirmed. Age 32. Family records are real, but personal experience in the U.S. is fabricated. Level 5 S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. Loyal to H.I.E.L.D. Current mission, infiltrate and recruit Carlos and James Gibson. What do you see? Alice asked, brow furrowed. James toned down on his smile but tried to keep tension low. You're living on the edge of your luck. Carlos, still facing the water, got the message immediately. The look in James's eyes told him everything. Being calm and professional, Carlos didn't make a sudden move. He just spoke softly. James, just do it. I'll take care of the rest. This is unforgivable. James gave a slight nod. Understood. Alice's smile faded. What's going on? In one swift motion, James twisted her wrist and flipped her body. She yelped as her knee hit the deck. Before she could react, he kicked her behind the other knee, dropping her fully to the floor. Ugh, Carlos? What's happening? What's wrong with James? She shouted. James drew his pistol and pressed it against the back of her head. Who sent you? He asked coldly. I don't know what you're talking about, she stammered. Carlos, please. What did I do? Carlos put down his fishing rod and approached. He looked at her with a quiet fury. You crossed a line, he said. You used her face. You played on something sacred, to him and to me. That was your mistake. I don't understand, Alice said, tears welling in her eyes. If you're firing me, just say it. Please don't kill me. I have no idea why you're doing this. James said nothing. He looked at Carlos and understood what he wanted to say. Check her. Her attire and her belongings. Carlos just nodded at the look and got to work. He searched her body, then went through her bag. Cortana, anything internal? No cyanide capsule and no tracking equipment. Good. James stepped back and stood next to Carlos, keeping the gun trained on her. You won't admit it, so I will, he said. Your background is fake. You're a level 5 S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. You're loyal to H.I.E.L.D. Are you talking now? Alice was shocked. How do you know that? James smiled. Special skill. You know why I asked to touch your hand? Because when I do, everything you know, everything you feel, and everything you see becomes transparent to me. There is no hiding from me once I have you in my hands. Her face turned pale. That's impossible. Is it? James tilted his head. You're caught. You've lost. The only question is, what do we do next? He handed the pistol to his father and walked back to the grill, resuming his cooking like nothing had happened. Carlos didn't hesitate. With one sharp motion, he swept his leg and kicked Alice off the edge of the yacht. She hit the water with a splash. A moment later, the pistol popped once. A bullet struck her clean in the skull. She slowly sank to the bottom, only to be found once she's decomposing and floating. Carlos holstered the weapon and returned to his fishing rod, calm as ever. The father and son spent the rest of Christmas Eve in peace, grilling, fishing, and sleeping under the stars on the yacht. At dawn, they turned back for shore. Ross was there when they returned. Mr. James, only the two of you are coming back? He asked, then immediately regretted it. Not his business. She was my father's employee, James said without a care. And she quit. They drove home in silence. Once inside, James sat on the couch and pulled out his phone. He dialed Maria Hill. Hey, beautiful. You miss me? I did, actually. How was Christmas? Great. Just had some barbecue and fishing with my dad. Wanna join next time? Tempting, but I was working last night. Pulled some intel on that woman. Everything looked normal. James smirked. Then it means you're surrounded. Chapter 47, New Empire Plan. What do you mean? Maria Hill's voice grew tense. It's obvious, isn't it? James said it with certainty. There are things happening inside S.H.I.E.L.D. you can't even see. If you're not surrounded, then what would you call it? Alice Roy wasn't loyal to S.H.I.E.L.D., she was loyal to someone else. She was a level 5 S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, but embedded by another organization. One that's already woven into S.H.I.E.L.D. at every level. Maria fell silent for a beat. If that's true, then S.H.I.E.L.D. would be compromised. Yeah, James interrupted. She's already dead. That was our warning. If anyone else comes for me or Carlos, we'll deal with them the same way. You should have brought her in, not killed her. Maria snapped. We could have interrogated her. You still don't get it. Your structure's clean in theory, but it's the very hierarchy that's been exploited. Your top-level access? It's already been co-opted. And Nick Fury isn't the only one calling the shots, is he? Her breath caught. How much do you know? More than you'd like, James said. But this isn't a phone conversation we should make. We'll talk in person. He hung up without letting her reply. Maria stared at the phone in her hand for a moment before standing up and heading to find Nick Fury. Director, we need to talk. Nick looked at her. Go ahead. Not here. His face tightened. This was the S.H.I.E.L.D. Washington HQ director's office, supposed to be the most secured. But he stood up without a word, grabbed his coat and walked out. They drove in silence to an old underground garage complex, dozens of storage units lined up, most repurposed as cheap warehouses. Fury unlocked one, flipped on the lights and shut the door. This is one of my off-grid gear caches. No one knows it exists. Now talk. Maria nodded. You remember Carlos's employee? Alice Roy? James asked me to dig into her background, but I found nothing. So she's clean. She's not. James called. Said Alice was a level 5 S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, loyal to Hydra. But there was nothing that came up in the database. He said the situation's worse than we imagined. We're surrounded. Fury's jaw clenched. He had his suspicions. He'd felt something was wrong inside S.H.I.E.L.D. for some time now, but this confirmed it. He said our structure makes it easy for a hostile takeover, Maria continued. Whoever's behind this, they've infiltrated deeply. Maybe even outranked you. That can't be, but if it's true, it explains a lot. A cold sweat ran down Fury's neck. What else did he say? He hung up. Said he'd talk in person. But he was angry, furious. Said someone sent a woman who looked like his mother to manipulate them. That was a line they wouldn't tolerate. He warned that if it happens again, there'll be a massacre. He's not wrong, Fury muttered. Bringing that woman in would have tipped our hand. We'd expose ourselves and the enemy would stay hidden. They've already embedded themselves too deep. Should we contact James again? No. Not yet. Let him cool off. He's got an invite to the Stark Expo anyway. We'll talk to him there. Play it casual. Meanwhile, James was back home pacing. His mind spun with everything Cortana had confirmed. Extracting Alice's memories had burned through a lot of his energy. Without more power, finding other Hydra agents was nearly impossible. The Tesseract is out of reach, he muttered. Stark's new arc reactor tech, now that's viable. If I'm there when he synthesizes the new element, you'll have a shot at it. Cortana said. It's your best bet for a short-term boost. They gave me 3 months of leave. That's not a coincidence. They're trying to minimize contact. Possibly a smart move by them. S.H.I.E.L.D's integrity is, shall we say, compromised. Cortana added dryly. James nodded, then had a sudden thought. What about League of Legends? Can I develop it as an actual product here? You're not getting powers from it if that's what you're thinking. Cortana replied. I'm not alien tech. I'm your former smartphone, remember? Still, if we push out League of Legends early, we can create a global platform and revenue. You've got the full data, right? Yes. Game files, the meta, even patch notes. You want to start a gaming empire? Might as well build an empire while waiting for a mission. Very well then, I prioritize searching and sorting out the game archive. The only limit of games we can publish are those of virtual reality variants, and the weaker PC specs available in the market to run unoptimized and processor-heavy games. James picked up the phone and called Stark Industries. Hello, this is Stark Industries. How may I assist you? I need to speak with Pepper Potts. Tell her it's James. She'll know. Chapter 48, Company Groundwork. Hi, Ace. Looking for Tony? He's tied up with the expo right now. Anything I can help you with? Pepper Potts hadn't become CEO yet, still Tony Stark's assistant. Pepper, I want to start a game company. Not sure if Tony's interested in investing, but I can offer him 30% of the shares, James said directly. Oh, aren't you an agent though? Pepper asked, puzzled. Yeah, just graduated from an intern. Got my official ID now, James replied. Wait, aren't you their ace? Why'd you need to take the exam? She looked confused. Well, I'm an ace as a sniper. But as an agent? I'm a newcomer. Make sense? Ah, got it. So you were a sniper in some special forces? Wait, no, Tony said you were an accountant. Snipers don't just come from the military. I was an assassin before, though not for long. That's intense. How many targets did you take out? Not really the point, okay? I was forced into it. Used to be just an ordinary guy. Then I got dragged into that life. But I took down the bad guys in the end. Phil recruited me afterward and I became an agent. Wow. Honestly, your story could be a novel. So this game company, how are you starting that and while being an agent? They gave me a 3-month vacation. I'm using the given window to launch the company. Game development's already done. Now it's about setting up and promoting it. Tony's right. You really are a genius. Though he said you were a finance genius and not this. This is another surprise. What's the game about? It's a MOBA-based game. Lots of champions, each with a backstory. There's potential for merchandising, fanfic craze, event hosting, and massive expansions. The gameplay's simple on the surface, fixed maps, 5 champions per team. But actual combat mechanics are complex. Each champion has unique skills. There's tactical teamwork and map control. As we add more champions, team combinations expand. Maybe we can include Stark's Iron Man? Now that's a great idea. I'll pitch it to Tony. Bet he'll want his character to be overpowered. Perfect. If he joins, balancing the game will be easier. Balance is key to replayability, but hard to pull off. I think Tony can help modify it. But if he wants to be overpowered, he can't really be one of the champions, unless of course we make his champion instead complex and very technical, like his Iron Man, constantly upgrading and highly versatile. League of Legends might be the gold standard, but balance is a constant battle. James needed Stark on board early. I'll talk to him right away. Great. Then I'll start preparing for the company. James hung up and headed to the kitchen. Carlos was trying out recipes lately. It was Christmas Day. Their first Christmas Eve had been warm and quiet, a father and son bonding moment. Carlos, I'm starting a game company. Giving you a 10% equity. I want to design a prototype character based on you. Oh? You're starting a company during a 3-month vacation? Yep. Not much else going on. The game should be big. I'm creating a character for both of us, father and son, though not Earth-based. I'm in. Sounds fun. But starting a company's not simple. What's your plan? First, I'm calling Philip. Game development is done. I've got over 300 million cash capital available. With Stark possibly joining, we've got enough capital. What I need now is a CEO. Seems like you've already got everything planned out. I don't know much about business, so I'll stick to reopening the flower shop. I'm hiring again, can you help vet the new staff? No problem. I'll pick the best fit. James stepped out and called Philip. Mr. James, how can I assist? Philip had made serious money working with James and Carlos and had grown fond of them. I need a game company set up. Buy or re-register, your call. Also, contact a headhunting firm. I need a CEO. That's it. Understood. It's simple to form a game company. One caution, game development and server costs are high and there's no guaranteed return. The game's done and we're ready for launch. Any more questions? None. Philip got to work right away. The commission would be substantial. If the company took off, he hoped to become legal counsel, a prize role. Setting up a company in the US wasn't difficult, especially with a lawyer. Within 3 days, James' company was ready. Philip opted not to buy an old firm. Philip met James at Alice's flower shop with the full company documentation. Mr. James, old game companies come with baggage. Like the staff and outdated gear. Tech moves fast. It would be better to start fresh. It'll take more time to do recruitment, but this is the US, talents in abundance. James was helping Carlos interview applicants and sell flowers. He knew quite a bit about flowers, thanks to the body's mother and of course Cortana. Makes sense. Glad I had you handle it. How do you feel about the name Mirrorborn Games? Nice name. But location matters more. Silicon Valley? Most high-tech talents are there. We'll have great infrastructure. That could work. Tax incentives are strong for tech businesses. Great, let's head out there soon then. I'll let you know when we go. After Philip left, James went back to the interviews. Lots of applicants today, most of them women. It makes him wonder, are these women here to work because it's a simple flower shop? Or is it because my father is just as handsome as me? Chapter 49, To Visit Mother. James' round of interviews was straightforward. He kept it brief, just a few minutes of handshakes and small talk, but powered through with the help of a surrounding fortress of energy drinks and wrappers of protein bars hiddenly piling up behind him. Excessive? Maybe. But it worked. He ended up hiring a woman named Hannah after expending tons of energy in trying to scan through countless women with Cortana. Hannah had just turned 31. She'd been married once but had no children. She and her ex-husband used to run a flower shop together until he died in a car accident. After that, she sold everything and moved to New York, hoping for a fresh start. The city's pace was dizzying, but when she stumbled upon this flower shop, something clicked. It felt right and seemed simpler compared to the ongoings around her. She applied on the spot. "Carlos, this lady's heart is recovering," James whispered after the interview, winking. "You better make your move." Sighing at the attempt, he changed topic. "James, I think we should visit the graveyard," Carlos said suddenly. James fell quiet. He'd planned to go late at night, old teachings maybe, but that wasn't necessary anymore. He had to adapt. "All right. Now that you've got an employee, we'll visit the grave. Just get her trained up. I'll be good to go anytime." Hannah started work the next day. She already knew her way around to being a florist, all she had to do was memorize the pricing. Carlos didn't charge much and barely made a profit, but customers loved the place. The decor was warm, the prices fair, it made people feel at ease and welcomed. "Hannah, get comfortable quickly. My son and I are visiting a grave in a few days. We'll be leaving the place in your hands." "Visiting a grave?" she asked, surprised. "Yes, my wife, James's mother," Carlos answered plainly. The honesty struck a chord. It was the kind of connection that reminded Hannah what life was about. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have asked." "It's all right. It's been a long time. I let them both down. Now I live with my son and try to make up for it. The funny thing is, James the one taking care of me." "I envy you too," Hannah said softly. "My husband and I didn't have children. Now he's gone and I'm on my own." "I'm sorry," Carlos said. "You can treat this place like your home. If you need anything, just ask. We've got you." "Thanks. Don't worry. I've got this place covered," she smiled, then added with a sly grin, "but I'd like a raise." "No problem, just do a good job and we'll talk about it." Their partnership was off to a good start. That evening, James went home and started researching Silicon Valley. Most of the tech he needed was available there, he just needed a capable CEO. As he scrolled through real estate and business forums, his phone rang. "Hello?" he answered. "James, it's Tony. Don't you have my private number already?" "Of course not. Wasn't the right time to exchange numbers the last time." "Well, I don't have yours either. Guess we both messed up. If you hadn't called, I'd have assumed I had it." "You're a busy guy. So, are you ready to invest? Tech or cash?" Stark asked. "Games already developed. I just need you to help design a balance system." "Sounds good. Where's the company based?" "California. Close to your place, isn't it?" "Nice. Silicon Valley?" "Exactly. Perfect environment for what we're doing." "All right, give me a number." "I'm in." 30%? "That's right. My father holds 10. I keep the rest. Once we go public, I'll release 20% in batches on the market. Your shares won't get diluted." "Deal. Loop Pepper in when it's time. She'll handle the logistics. I'm in New York handling the expo, wanna come check it out?" "No can do. I'm visiting my mother's grave, then flying to California. Packed schedule." "Grave visit, huh?" Stark paused. His parents were gone too, but his relationship with his father had always been complicated. "Hey, Stark, there's a saying in Asia, the dead should be respected. Whatever happened in life, it's over. All that's left is memory. Good or bad, it's still nostalgia. Exhaling, alright. Got it. Don't forget you need to show up for the expo's opening. Great chance to promote the new company. You got it, won't miss the chance, James said, ending the call with a smile as he settled back on the couch. A few days later, Hannah had found her rhythm. She remembered old returning customers, worked with a cheerful spirit, and loved the shop. Her mood had lifted, and so had Carlos's. Carlos had always been the quiet, steady type, and it turned out he had a certain appeal. Especially among women over 30. Some nearby executives, single, confident, and successful, would stop in for flowers and conversations. Family dynamics in the U.S. were different. Parents and children didn't usually live together, but James and Carlos were an exception. James was used to it. Carlos wanted to do his part as a father that he never did. It worked for them. Soon the two were packed and heading back to the city they'd left behind. Cemeteries always carried a certain weight. The trees were bare in winter and the air felt gray. Alice Gibson's tombstone was a little worn. James hadn't had the money for anything grand at the time. They brought fresh flowers and quietly tidied the site. If she knows we came together, do you think she'd be happy? Carlos asked softly. The woman he regretted most lay here. She would. She was always strong and always kind. We might be late, but we made it. James smiled. The cemetery was part of a church next door, sustained by community donations. Carlos approached the priest. Our loved one is buried here. We hope she's at peace in heaven. Please accept our donation. It's not much, but it's heartfelt. He handed over a check for $1 million. James handed one too. Thank you for your generosity. Is there anything you'd like us to do? The priest's voice remained calm and sincere. He wasn't fazed by the amount. He seemed like a good man. It feels too sad here, James said. My mother loved flowers. Could we clean up the grounds and plant some? Nothing expensive. Just something that feels alive. We'll visit every year. Don't worry, child, the priest said, crossing himself. You're right. This place should be full of life. It would ease the souls of the departed if we do so. Chapter 50, Silicon Valley Start. Back in New York, Carlos kept Alice's flower shop, Central Park South, running smoothly. The storefront operated quietly as always, a warm and fragrant corner near the park. It was more than just a florist, it was his cover, and he managed it with strategic planning. Hydra hadn't made another move, and Alice Roy's death passed without a ripple, like she'd never existed. Meanwhile, James and Philip flew out to California. Silicon Valley had just welcomed a guest who'd soon grow into someone influential. Philip, is the land here expensive? James asked during the flight. Not too bad. Are you thinking of buying land and building from scratch? Yeah, I am. We'll need a strong home base in the US and international partnerships later. Our game company's going to be big, so it deserves a proper HQ. I probably can't afford to construct a building yet, but I can buy a plot. Land values are only gonna go up. In his past life, Riot Games had been acquired by Tencent. Despite the massive player base, James had never understood how a game company like that could constantly report losses. Is it because it's a room full of techies who don't know how to manage finances? By the way, how's the market for messaging apps right now? He asked. There aren't that many. Why? Just an idea. I'll explain when we're on the ground. Silicon Valley sprawled across the northern half of California's Bay Area. Even in this alternate world, its role as the heart of the tech universe remained unchanged. This was James's first time here. The energy felt right. Through Tony Stark's connections, they toured a few tech firms, particularly one specializing in servers. The server rooms were massive, walls of blinking lights and humming hardware. Industrial-grade machines lined in tight formation. Expensive and powerful. Back at the hotel, James locked himself in and started scanning the current instant messaging market. Plenty of apps were out there, but none had established dominance. Most only handled basic friend-to-friend chats. Another goldmine. James rubbed his chin. And I gave Stark 30%. Better use him well for every dollar he gets. He knew from experience, monopolizing a new tech space was all about timing and execution. What mattered now were the patents, both utility and design. Philip, take this flash drive and file a patent application on what's in it, James said, handing it over. The data was Cortana's work, disguised as his own. Philip didn't ask questions. He was already picturing future commissions. Big ones. His instincts told him James wasn't just building a simple company, he was setting up a new business empire. He had to stay in this man's circle. James didn't take long to call Stark. "Hey, Stark. I'm starting to regret that 30%. What happened?" Stark asked, seemingly intrigued on what it might be. "I got to Silicon Valley and ideas started forming. I've managed to come up with a bunch of new systems. I sent Philip to file the patents for it. It feels like I gave away a fortune." "You made a deal." "No takebacks," Stark replied. "But if you're talking about patents, then yeah, I want in. Once the expo's done, I'll take a look. This company's going to be worth hundreds of billions. And I just handed you a third. I feel like I could cry from how much is gonna leave me." James really did feel that sting. He'd kept Cortana in limited use on purpose, worried she'd dig too deep and find all the world's secrets, or all the heroes he wasn't ready to face would see her as a threat. But now, with those limitations slightly lifted, she was helping him see the world for what it really was, a gold mine wrapped in silicon and steel. "All right, enough melodrama," Stark said. "What's the point? You're the company's technical consultant now. I want you to help optimize our servers, and we'll need more funding soon. The patents will soon be ready for you to see. At your expo, I need a full-blown product launch. A global reach." "Not a problem. I'll tell my secretary to set up stage time. It's my expo, but we'll give you a bit of a spotlight since 30% of it is mine anyway." Stark just have a cheeky smile, trying to make a little teasing on where it hurts. "Looking forward to it." James hung up, smiling with a bit of pain, knowing that Stark really did sting him with that tease. Stark was locked in now. And James is officially a genius in their eyes. Cortana was him, and he was Cortana. From that point on, things accelerated. He had the headhunter firm reroute their shortlisted CEO candidates to Silicon Valley, and he started scouting for locations. The company headquarters would be built here. And so would the servers. But there was something else, a dream he'd carried from his past world. An esports stadium. A sanctuary for gamers. A true esports without greed and corruption ruining the game. A nobody was about to build a digital empire. James didn't care if he was seen as a loser to care so much about gaming. He was making something legendary. Philip came back sooner than expected. In just 2 weeks, he dropped a thick file of completed patent paperwork on James's desk. "All done, Mr. James. I moved as fast as I could." James nodded, flipping through the stack. "You did well. From now on, you're heading our legal department. This company's going global. I need you prepared." Philip's eyes lit up. He was ambitious and James knew it. But ambition, if well managed, was a great asset. Philip was sharp. He'd do well with real power. "You can count on me." "What's next?" "We need a large plot. Big enough for our headquarters, a gaming arena, and a central square. I want this place to become the world's gaming holy land." "You got it." "Not a problem. Most of the land out here is owned by the state. They're offering it cheap to attract investment. Taxes are low too, especially for tech. If our project brings in tourism, it checks every box. I've already looked into it." "You're already thinking like a player. Good. I've got high expectations." James grinned. The land was indeed cheap. The area wasn't densely packed yet, lots of room to expand. The Silicon Valley mindset had already begun attracting companies, but this was still 2007. Civilian tech hadn't caught up to what the military had been hoarding. James had an edge. The world might have been strange, full of superheroes and wild tech, but it was still a world he could dominate entertainment,